A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
This I believe. Dr. Alexander Forbes is a leading physiologist. Since 1910, when he graduated from Harvard Medical School, he has taught there and devoted himself to research on the nervous system. He saw active duty in the Naval Reserve in 2 world wars, and for 25 years has been president of the board of the George Junior Republic, a school of practical citizenship. Here is Dr. Alexander Forbes.
The notion that science and religion are antagonistic and incompatible seems to me utterly false. Science is the quest for eternal truths in the universe by disciplined minds, and I am sure that if pursued in the right spirit, science engenders reverence. Reverence and worship are as much part of the normal human being as hunger for food or zest for action. Primitive man naturally worships the sun, prime source of light and warmth, and indeed of this earth itself. I sympathize and find the blue sky overhead as noble a setting for worship as the temple or cathedral. I disagree with the cynics who hold that all organized religion is a racket conducted by parasites who fleece the gullible. The history of religions reveals examples of just that. Indeed, our present civilization is not wholly free from that reproach. But I am sure the well-nigh universal tendency of man to revere and worship and to build his noblest edifices for the purpose means more than wholesale surrender to self-seeking parasites. Religion is not a weakness, it is a vital element in human nature. Geology tells the story of the change in our planet through millions of years from a mass of molten matter in which no life could exist to a fit abode for living creatures. Biology takes up the story and tells how life has evolved from origins as primitive as the protein molecule to ever more highly organized forms, animals that see, hear, and feel much as we do, and through them to human beings who can reason, cultivate the fine arts, and organize a cooperative and harmonious society. I find in this cosmic sequence a profoundly stirring drama. Those who say that all this is just a complex of physical and chemical reactions, devoid of meaning or purpose, are blinding themselves to all that matters most in our lives. If a chemist analyzes a volume of Shakespeare and finds nothing there but paper and ink, his report is quite irrelevant to me as I read Hamlet. Analysis of a symphony by physical apparatus may appear complete to the physicist, but it means nothing to the musician. Viewing the pageant of the universe in its entirety and contemplating man's rise from the protozoan to his highest spiritual stature, I find in the creative force that did all this something we can worship with all the reverence that is in us. In the struggle for survival through the ages, cruel competition has been stressed as a necessary element. Yet in spite of this, many animals lower in the scale than man have found that cooperation works better than conflict and actually promotes survival. How much more does this apply to civilized man? I believe that when neighbor countries learn that friendly trade is better than warfare, they will live better. When management and labor learn that their common aim, production, is better served by teamwork than by quarrels and strikes, they will fare better physically and spiritually. I deplore the hostile conflicts between rival churches calling themselves Christian. The need for worship is expressed in many ways. The creeds and rituals that suit one type of mind do not satisfy others. Dogmatic insistence that one form of worship is right and all others wrong is as alien to the spirit of freedom to which our Western world is dedicated as the tyranny of the dictator. Only when mutual respect and friendly cooperation replace dogmatism and bigotry will the true spirit of liberty prevail on earth.
Those were the beliefs of Dr. Alexander Forbes, Professor Emeritus of Physiology at Harvard University.
First on the scene, crime photographer.
Got it. Look for it in the Morning Express.
Columbia Columbia brings you another adventure of Casey, Crime Photographer, written by Charles Holden and played by Doc Cotsworth. Casey H. Cameraman of the Morning Express covers the crime news of a great city. His adventure for tonight, Truth or a Tooth? The city room of the Morning Express. Downstairs, the big presses are beginning to roll. Over in one corner, Henry Brower, one of the older rewrite men, sits at his desk, staring out of the window into the night. He turns as Casey, ace photographer of the Express, and reporter Ann Williams enter the room.
Hi, Ann.
Hello,
Casey.
Henry.
Hi, Henry. Well, say, what's the matter with you? Looks like you'd lost your last friend.
Yeah.
You look sick, pal.
Oh, no, I'm okay.
Now, what's the matter, Henry?
Oh, I don't know. I got the darndest feeling. It's kind of a fear, Ann. It's like I'm going to be dying all of a sudden.
Die?
Huh?
Oh, come on. You're healthier than a master sergeant. What's eating you, huh?
Oh, I feel all right. It's not that. It's just... Did you ever feel that your number was up, Casey?
Huh?
You're about to check out?
Oh, now, look here, pal. Talk sense. Hey, anybody make any threats on your life?
No.
Your finances in good shape?
Well, no worse than usual. Family my size, my salary.
Yeah. Well, I never did see how you could keep up. Hey, look, could you use $50 till payday?
No, Casey, thanks. Sure, you kids are swell, but I'm all right. Shucks, I'm sorry I cried all over you. Forget it, will you?
That's okay, pal. Tell me, this funny fear you spoke of, it's got you. Centers around some special person, huh? Am I right?
Yeah.
Well, come on, Henry. You better tell us. It might help. Who is it?
Well, it's nothing I can put my finger on, Ann. It's a fellow I met 3 months ago. He gives me the willies. I wake up in a cold sweat and find out I've been dreaming about him.
Hmm?
Yeah. He's been nice enough to me, too. He saved me a big dental bill, for one thing.
Saved your dental bill, how?
Yeah. Well, he did the work on me himself. He's kind of a research scientist, I guess.
What's his name?
Renat.
Renat.
Yeah. He's got a country home out on River Road.
He's not an accredited dentist, though, is he?
Oh, no. He may have been once, but I don't know. He's developing some new kind of metal for fillings. He offered to do all my dental work free just to try it out.
You should never have let him monkey with your teeth. Never let anybody but a real dentist do that.
I know, Casey, but... Well, I had a couple of teeth bothering me, and when he offered to fix them up for nothing, I couldn't resist it. Well, he kind of hypnotized me, I guess. He gives me the willies, I tell you.
Henry, do you mind if I look at your teeth?
No, go ahead.
Well, those just look like ordinary silver fillings. Not very skillfully put in at that, Henry. You know, this guy's got no right to go around doing dental work without a certificate. What's his name again?
George Renat.
How'd you meet him, anyhow?
Well, my oldest boy, Rusty, works on a truck and delivers those big steel cylinders of bottled gas. You know the kind the dentists use?
Laughing gas.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, anyway, Rusty took some out to Renat, and Renat asked him if he knew anyone who wanted to have some free dental work done.
Funny thing to ask.
Well, yeah, they did seem a little screwy, but I had these teeth bothering me, and I was so hard up. Well, Renat seemed all right and said he just wanted a chance to try out his new type of filling. And said not to worry, that he knew dentistry.
I'd like to talk to that phony.
Oh, no, Casey, don't get so upset. There's nothing to do about it now. It's all over. And, well, besides, he made me promise not to tell anyone.
Well, no wonder. There are laws about unlicensed guys doing things like that. He could get plenty.
Now, this fear of Renat you got hanging over you, how do you explain that, huh, Henry?
Oh, it's just me. Nerves, I guess. I've had a lot on my mind. Bills and... You know.
Yeah. Well, look, why don't you sort of lay low for a day or two until you feel more like yourself. Stick around the office as much as you can, and if you do go out, don't go alone.
Hey, what's in the back of your mind, Casey?
Having, yeah. As long as you feel low, just keep among friends, okay?
Well, all right. You know, I feel a little better already.
Good.
Yeah, well, I'll see you later.
Yeah, so long, Henry.
Bye, Henry.
So long.
Take care of yourself. He is really tied up in bow knots, isn't he?
Say so, Annie, you know something? Just twice in my life, I've had guys talk to me like that. And inside of a month, both those guys were dead.
Dead?
Yes, sir. Annie, the human mind is a very funny thing. Another thing, this friend of Henry's, guys that aren't dentists, don't just go around denting or whatever you call it, just for the fun of it. They've got a motive. Annie, I smell something very screwy here. Hello, Casey speaking.
Hello, Casey. Logan.
Oh, well, Logan. What's the good word from your homicide department today?
Now, listen, you know a guy named Henry Brower who works here at the Express?
What's happened? Did he disappear?
Yeah.
Jumping Gene Hudson.
His wife called headquarters here. He didn't come home all last night.
Yeah?
We've had an alert on him for over an hour. Hey, how'd you know he disappeared?
Well, he told me last night he had a feeling he was going to...
Oh, that's how it is, huh? Well, the bum took a powder, he walked out.
No, Logan, no, he didn't.
Don't tell me. Brower's got $3,000 in outstanding bills around
That
town.
doesn't make any
He
difference.
did a fade trying to duck payments, that's all.
You're nuts, Logan. He's the right guy.
Right guys don't do things like that,
But I
Casey.
tell you, Henry's got a wife and 4 kids.
Well, does that make it any better? Oh, he's done a fade, I tell you.
Sure, somebody didn't do him in.
Well, we'll check on that, but nobody had a motive. He was just an unimportant little guy. I say he got sick of it all, and that's how I'm going to play it. Okay, Casey, if you hear anything, get in touch with me, will you?
Yeah. Logan, I will. Okay.
We'll catch up with him. Bye.
Right. So the little guy's premonition was right at that.
Wow. Hello, you two.
Hi, Ethelbert.
Right.
What brings you two here in the glare of the noonday sun, huh?
Why, Ethelbert. You know Casey can't think straight anywhere but here at the Blue Note. And besides, it's nice and cool.
You want something? You don't, do you, this hour of the day?
No, I don't. Maybe a beer. Yeah, give me a beer.
You can fix me an orange juice, Ethelbert, if that won't cost you your professional standing.
It's not a bad joke, Miss Williams. Not bad.
Why, thank you.
Say, speaking of jokes, did you hear that new radio comic last night?
Oh, no.
I almost died laughing. All through his program, he kept saying, so-and-so spelled backwards is so-and-so. Like once he said, we will now hear from our all-girl orchestra. Girls, make with the music. And remember, folks, music spelled backwards is P-I-S-U-M. Kiss him. You get it, Casey?
Do I get it? Good. Corn spelled backwards is Narok, I guess. Well, now, how about my beer?
Okay. Here's your beer. What's the trouble, pal?
He is thinking, Ethelbert, about the process of getting teeth filled.
What's the matter, Casey? You got a toothache?
No, I got a headache, Ethelbert. Very good friend of mine, Henry Brower, has disappeared.
Oh, I know, Henry. You say he disappeared?
Sure has.
Yeah.
Well, how?
We don't know. Just dropped out of sight, that's all.
And we've got next to nothing to go on.
Nothing but my hunch that a quack that filled his teeth may have got something to do with this case.
A dentist?
Well, he isn't a dentist, Ethelbert. That's just it. He's some kind of a tin-horn scientist. Maybe a nut, maybe he's a crook, maybe both. I don't know. He did this dental work for Henry for free.
Who is this amateur tooth carpenter? What's his name?
A fellow named Renat. Lives out on the River Road.
Why don't you go out and see him, Casey?
That is definitely my plan, pal. I've got to do a little groundwork first.
Police headquarters?
Yeah, I suppose I had to look over their files. I don't know quite where to start, though. Logan has decided that Henry simply took a powder and scrammed it. So, you know Logan, when his mind gets made up, it's like a sealed tomb.
Why does Logan always have to act like such a goof?
Maybe he'll be different this time. Remember, folks, goof spelled backwards is food.
Oh, Ethelbert, look, for Pete's sake, can that silly Hey, wait a minute.
What's the matter?
Annie. I got it. Look, I got it.
You got what?
Well, I've got something to start on anyway. It really took that crazy gag to start my brain working. Goof spelled backwards is spook. Ethelbert, what time is it?
Just noon.
Noon, eh?
Yeah, but remember, folks, noon spelled backwards is... Huh? N-O-O-N.
Yeah, Casey, that's the Tanner case you're thinking of. Colorado in 1931.
1931, yep, that's it. I remember it well, Logan. This guy Tanner was a cattleman. He was robbed, and then he was trampled to death by his own herd cattle, right?
Yep. And there was never any solution to the robbery.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, what's that got to do with Henry Brower's disappearance?
Well, don't look now, but I got one of my hunches, Logan. Two cases tie up beautifully.
Oh, Casey, I think you're nuts. You and your hunches. Henry Brower ran away, I tell you. He's trying to beat his creditors.
Logan, I tell you, Henry wouldn't do a thing like that. All right, now I'm going to find him. That guy is in trouble. I bet he could use a bit of help right now. Here, Fay. Take the candle.
Where is he, Renat? I don't see him.
In the corner of the cellar there. Come on. Well, Mr. Brower, how do you feel? Funny, but with that gag on your puss, I don't understand a word you say. Now, don't try to struggle. You're tied up pretty well, you know.
What will it do if he dies, George? He doesn't look so good.
So much the better. Now, take that gag out of his mouth.
What are you going to do?
Ask him a few questions. Come on, take it off.
Okay. There.
Water.
Shut up, you.
What are you going to do to me?
Well, sucker, tomorrow is your last day.
You can't do that. I never did anything to you. Please, Renat. I've got a wife and 4 kids. You can't...
Shut up, I say.
Give me just a little water.
I'll get him some, Fay. There's a glass by the laundry tub.
Okay.
Water, please.
You know what the police are saying about you, Henry?
No, what?
Well, they say that you disappeared because you owe so many bills.
Here's the water.
Now, Henry, I'll hold it for you right at your lips.
Please.
But before you drink, I've got one little question I want answered. Did you ever tell anyone about my fixing your teeth for you?
No.
Not even that son of yours, Rusty?
I did what you said. He never knew I came out here after that first time.
And nobody knows, huh?
Nobody. Please give me some water. Please give me... Yes, please.
I'll learn what I want to know, Fay. I'll put the gag back.
Oh, no.
Don't worry, sucker. Tomorrow it'll be all over. Come on, Kay.
George, do you think he did tell anyone?
No, I'm sure he didn't. I've had that guy scared to death ever since he first came out here.
Listen, darling, nothing can go wrong, can it?
Don't worry, ain't a chance, babe, because this time I'm taking no chances at all.
Oh, I hate the suspense. But I suppose this job will put us on easy street for the rest of our lives, huh?
That's right, baby. For the rest of our lives.
Gee, Mr. Casey, do you suppose the cops are right? Do you think Dad just ran away?
No, Rusty, I don't. I think somebody's doing him dirt, and that's why I came to you. You're willing to string along with me, are you?
Sure, Mr. Casey. Gee, I'll do anything to find Dad.
Good. Well, I got to start somewhere, Rusty. Your dad seemed to have a strange sort of fear of this fellow Renat.
Why, he hardly knew him. Just that once when he went out there with me. And besides, why would he want to hurt my dad?
It's a funny world, Rusty. Sometimes we don't know. All right, now we got to work fast. You got it straight, what I want you to do?
I can't go wrong. The nitrous oxide tanks have a blue label marked N2O.
Uh-huh.
The air tanks always have just a green label.
Good kid. And I can depend on you?
I'll deliver them out there in an hour. There we are, Mr. Renat. There's your regular replacement on the bottled gas. I'm a little ahead of schedule, but I can't always get out here in the country.
That's all right. I use that gas in my experiments almost daily. Hey, by the way, is your father turned up yet?
No, we haven't heard a thing from him.
Oh, that's terrible. Well, he's probably just up on a log somewhere, huh? I'm sure it'll work out all right.
Yeah, Mr. Renat. I think maybe it will.
Okay, Annie. That's Renat's house right over there. Now, look, you just stay right in the car. Don't make a sound. Don't get upset or anything like that.
Casey, if your hunch is right, you're not a dangerous man. I wish you wouldn't go in there alone.
Never mind. I can take care of myself. Look, if I don't come out in half an hour, beat it to the nearest farmhouse and telephone Logan right away.
Will you let me go with you?
No, I gotta play this alone, Annie. Now, don't you worry. I'll be careful.
We'll see that you do. Good luck.
Okay, honey.
Yes?
Does Mr. Renat live here?
Who are you?
I'm a friend of Henry Brower. He sent me out here.
You've been talking to him?
Yeah, you see, miss, I got a toothache, something awful. He told me that Mr. Renat might kind of fix me up.
Just a minute, please. Wait right out there in the porch, will you?
Yeah, okay.
George.
Yeah, baby? Who is it?
Guy. You know, he says that he knows Henry Brower, and Henry sent him here.
Henry sent him? Ah, you're crazy.
I tell you, he said Henry Brower sent him.
Huh. Does he look like a copper?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, George, don't let anything happen.
Don't worry. Nothing's going to happen. Yeah, he might be a plant from the police. I'd better see him.
Be careful, George. Please be careful.
Don't worry. By the way, what do you want?
He says that Henry told him that he could get a tooth fixed out here.
Oh, he did, huh?
Yeah.
Let me doing his work. I'll make him pay for that. Okay, Faye. There's only one way to play it. Get this guy in here. I'll promise to fix his tooth, give him gas, and I'll knock him off.
You have to?
No, we can't lose a nerve now.
Oh, but darling...
Get him in here, I say.
Okay. Won't you come in?
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Renat, I got a little toothache here. I was wondering if you could fix me up.
Why don't you go to a dentist?
Well, they're not open at night.
Oh.
Things started acting up, and I suddenly thought of you.
Yeah?
Yeah, Henry Brower told me about you.
But I don't do that sort of thing.
Don't kid me now. I've heard of a black market even in dentistry, eh, Renat?
I'm not a dentist, I tell you.
Oh, I know you're not a licensed one, but you could help me out. I got a really terrible toothache here. Awful.
Well, all right, Mr.
Casey.
Oh, Mr. Casey. Come on into my lab. Maybe I can't fix that tooth for you.
Right this way, please.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now, if you'll just sit in the chair there, huh?
Well, just a plain chair, huh?
Yeah, that's right. I told you I wasn't a dentist. You'll have to put up with what I have. Now, tell me, where's the tooth that hurts?
Gee, I don't really know exactly. It's sort of a general ache all down those sides.
Don't worry, I'll find it. There it is.
Oh! That hurts.
I'm afraid I'll have to give you gas.
Huh? Does that hurt?
No, not in the least. Here, just adjust this over your nose.
Like good? Okay.
Yeah. It's fine. Turn it on, Faye. Now, breathe deeply, Mr. Casey. In just a few moments, you won't be able to remember a thing. He's a phony, all right. He hasn't got a cavity in his head. His teeth are perfect.
I thought so. Is he unconscious?
He ought to be. I've given him enough for 10 men. You know, I think he's wise to it.
Oh, George, I knew this was risky. We should never have tried it again. We got away with it in Colorado, but, well, because you picked a nobody for the fall guy. But it isn't working out this time.
Don't worry. This Casey is probably a friend of Henry Brower who got suspicious of me when Henry disappeared. Probably just came out to investigate. Well, we'll soon fix that. We'll just get rid of Mr. Casey.
But how?
I think a little of that hypodermic of my own special formula there will do it. Yeah, there's one ready in the cabinet.
But you don't want 2 bodies to be found here after the fire.
Oh, brother, it's going to work out all right, Fay. We'll get rid of this lug tonight. Burn the house down tomorrow. I'll find Mr. Brower's body, whose dental work I fixed to exactly match my own. They'll identify him as me. You collect my insurance and meet me inside of 6 months in Havana. Everything just as we planned.
I only hope we get away with it, that's all.
We will. Don't worry. Now, give him some more gas.
Aren't you afraid you'll smother me?
Why? What? You can't do that.
No, you don't, you swine.
George, okay, drug him.
Oh, my arm. There. Guess that'll teach you, Mr. Tanner.
Tanner.
Oh, you freaking my arm. You don't deny you're Tanner? Colorado, 1931.
No. You're crazy. Ow. All right. I'm Tanner. Let me go.
All right, now, Tanner, where's Henry?
I'll talk. He's in the cellar.
Is he alive?
Yeah, we haven't hurt him.
He's alive.
He'd better be.
Pick her up, you two. Come on, Ring.
Logan.
Oh, Casey, you all right?
Oh, sure, Annie, I'm all right, sure.
When you went inside, I couldn't wait half an hour. I just drove up to the next farmhouse and called Logan.
Yeah, I got here as fast as I could.
Well, Logan, my hunch was right.
I know. We followed you in. We were right outside the lab door.
You hurt?
Every word. Believe me, it'll be used against you.
We're gone, as Fay. You'd better not talk.
That's more like it. All right, keep him covered, Logan. I'm going down to get Henry.
Oh, Casey. It's great to return to the land of the living.
Yeah, from which Renat and Fay will soon be departing. Ethelbert, my fine feathered friend, the same, please.
And the drinks is still on me tonight.
You know, Henry is feeling much better.
I noticed that.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Coming up.
Thank
You know, Casey, I still don't see how you pinned this whole thing on Renat. How did you?
Well, Ethelbert, I tell you, I was naturally suspicious of a non-dentist doing all that fancy dental work. You know, there's only one sure way to check on the identity, if you'll pardon the expression, Henry, of a well-burned corpse.
Yeah, I nearly was just that, too.
Yeah.
Oh,
what
brother.
this guy was doing was building himself a case, you see. He made over Henry's dental work to match his own. You see, Tanner tried that trick once before in Colorado, and he got away with it. He dressed some poor guy in his clothes, killed him, and then made it look as though he himself had been trampled to death in a stampede.
Then he studied dentistry, huh? But, Casey, when you was in the lab there taking that gas, what'd you do? Hold your breath?
Rusty worked that one out. He switched labels on the gas he delivered. I just pretended to be unconscious, Ethelbert. You know me. I was never unconscious. I was breathing plain air all the time. The only way I could think of to get a confession out of him.
Oh, but how'd you ever connect this bloke up with that case in Colorado? How'd you know he was Tanner?
Well, this really is going to kill me to admit it, Ethelbert, but it was when you were doing all that backward talk, you remember? And remember, folks, Renat, spelt backwards, is
P-A-N-N-E-R. Well, how do you like that? Tanner. Tanner? You're Tanner. Well, I'll be doggone.
You've been listening to Crime Photographer, written by Charles Holden and based on the fictional character of Flash Gun Casey, created by George Harmon Cox. Casey is played by Stotts Cotsworth and Anne by Miss Leslie Woods. Original music composed and conducted by Archie Blyer. And the Blue Note pianist is Herman Chittison. Crime Photographer is produced by John Dees and directed tonight by Rocco Tito. Crime Photographer will be heard again next Monday at this same time, after which it will return to the air Thursday, August 8th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time under commercial sponsorship. This is Bob Hite inviting you to join us again next Monday at this same time for another fast-moving adventure with Casey, Crime Photographer. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This I Believe. Alfred Drake is an actor, singer, playwright, and director. It was the role of Curly in Oklahoma which made him a star. His subsequent successes in Kiss Me, Kate and The King and I, and his performances in the comedy drama Joy to the World and The Gambler, have established him not only as a fine singer, but a versatile actor. This is Alfred Drake's creed.
I was 7 or 8. I sat in the mezzanine. The wire ran from the raised platform on the stage to the railing of the second balcony. Up there, way up there, poised on the railing, one hand gripping a nearby post, was a man dressed in the traditional leotard. He was the aerialist, the daring young man on the tight wire, about to attempt the famous and terrible slide for life. The orchestra stopped playing, all except the snare drum, which rolled threateningly. Still holding the post, the death-defier carefully fitted his feet to the tremblingly taut wire. He flexed his knees once or twice, testing the give and take of the wire, testing his weight, testing his balance. Then, with a self-encouraging shout, the man on the wire released his grip on the post, and while we clutched our seats, he slid down the wire, down over my head, and gathering momentum now, down over the yawning pit of the main floor to land, finally, safely on the little raised platform. I remember this. I remember my fear, my admiration. And I remember wondering if there wasn't some way the daring young man could slide up the wire. Apparently, I wanted him to defy gravity as well as the grave. I believe that man, obsessed by ambivalence, divided by duality, is the most complicated endeavor of creation. I believe that man is the highest potential of creation. I believe that is why we are here. Created perhaps out of dispassionate curiosity and curious compassion, we were given the miraculous opportunity to be anything we wished. We were endowed with everything, every conceivable gift, and permitted to do as we willed, to make what we wished of our world and ourselves. We were the noblest experiment, the most complicated trial with the widest range of possibility. I watch myself walking that tight wire every day. I see myself inexpertly poised and precariously balanced, wavering over the void, while I try to decide which foot should be moved first. This daily testing is made up of multiple choices, an infinity of decisions that I know I must consider. I must consider and weigh each choice, come to a decision, and, having arrived there, act upon it. I must do this even though I am wretchedly aware of possible imperfection within my own judgment, even though I know only some of my weaknesses and strengths, even though I am, like all men, imponderably capable of evil as well as good. So uneasy is my equilibrium that there are times when I can't even tell the important decisions from the unimportant. So I know I must try to treat them all with equal consideration. And this must be done in the teeth of self-accusation of over-solemnity, of loss of perspective, of occasional lassitude, of self-excuse. I know I must pull my weight up the wire. I know the climb isn't any easier or harder for anyone else. I know I am not unique or alone. I recognize my share of responsibility in creation's great experiment. I realize that now we are at the apex of the struggle between good and evil. We have divided atoms and conquered elements and originated great power, and then wondered how we were to employ this Frankenstein. We have created a force so extreme that it can either save us once and for all or destroy us completely and forever. We are forcing the issue to a final decision. I know I must share the work and responsibility of that decision. I want to make the experiment worthwhile. And I believe the highest good is not impartial, and that we can and will conquer ourselves and walk that tight wire up to the realization of that high potential, the highest good first conceived.
That was Alfred Drake, who lives with his wife and 2 children in New York City.
Calling all detectives. Suppose you visited a restaurant, found no menu, no waiters, no customers. Yet you knew it made fabulous profits. What kind of a racket would you look for? That is the problem on this page from my casebook. The casebook of Jerry Browning, private detective. Even though I, Jerry Browning, have been a private detective for 10 years, every now and then I get a case that floors me. Banking Associates Incorporated is a loan company so big that it specializes in lending money only to people who don't need it. Its executive director is Ron Ryerson, who has the ingratiating personality of a snake oil salesman, combined with all the kindliness of a bear trap. He said, "Close the door." Ryerson leaned back. "Here's your assignment, Browning. Auguste Escobier owns a restaurant on Morley Street. His statement shows he's making big money. Wants $70,000 to open a downtown branch. Ever eaten his place?" "Well, no, sir. I never even heard of it." Ryerson said, "Neither did I, till he came in here. Can't imagine how he makes that kind of money. Look into it." Escobier's restaurant was in an outlying section, the first floor of a modest brownstone house. It had no sign. The way I found it was by peering in and noting the tables. There were less than a dozen tables in the place, only 2 of them occupied. I sat down and waited. About 20 minutes later, a stout, middle-aged man walked up to me.
"You are waiting for somebody?"
"Not somebody, something. I'd like dinner." The man looked perplexed, pulled out a chair, sat down at my table. He said,
"I am Escobier."
There was a long, unhappy silence. Finally, Escobier said,
"You are hungry, maybe?"
I said, "Yes, I am. Very hungry." Escobier's face lit up.
"Fine, so am I."
Got it.
"Come, we will go out for dinner together."
The head of an industrial loan company hired me to check up on a restaurant owner who offered to take me out for dinner. I said, "Look, Mr. Escobier, this is supposed to be a restaurant. Don't you serve meals?" Escobier said,
"There is no selection, and it takes too long. If you are hungry, come with me."
Well, now I've heard everything. Okay, let's go. A tall, important-looking man got out of a sporty-looking convertible that was pulled up in front of the building just as we reached the sidewalk. He called, "Hey, Escobier, wait a second." Escobier said,
"Excuse me a moment."
"Now, see here, Escobier, don't think you can hold me up. I'll give you $100,000 for your place. Take it or leave it. $110,000 is my top price." Escobier took my arm.
"My friend and I are about to dine. It is bad for the digestion to talk business before dinner, and in any case, I do not wish to sell."
We'd walked about half a block before I found my tongue. I said, "That man, he offered you $110,000 for your dinky restaurant?" Escobier smiled.
"Yes, foolish, isn't it?"
"It isn't foolish, it's insane. Anyway, where are you taking me?" Escobier said,
"To Harry's hamburger. Hamburgers, my favorite dish, so easily prepared."
I wrenched my arm free. "Mr. Escobier, I just remembered. I've got important business to attend to." The next morning, I made my report to Ryerson. I said, "Escobier's place must be a front for some other kind of business." I can't imagine what. I told Ryerson about the purchase offer I'd overheard. Ryerson frowned. "Well, it doesn't seem logical. If he's running an illegal business, how can he expect to get a loan to build a branch restaurant?" Ryerson shook his head. "I consider this an unsatisfactory report, Browning. Your services are no longer required." I got up. "Okay. I never did like working for you anyway." Well, that's one way of alienating people and losing clients. I went back to my office, got out the folder labeled Banking Associates Incorporated, and flung it into the wastebasket. Then I sat down and brooded. The more I thought about Escobier and his weird business, the madder I got. Not because I'd been fired by a well-paying client, but because I couldn't figure out what the thing was all about. Finally, I picked up the phone, dialed a number. Hello, Madge. Jerry Browning. How would you like to have dinner with me tonight? You would? Fine. I'll pick you up about 7. And if we wind up with hamburgers, don't be too surprised. When we entered Escobier's place, it looked much like the night before, except that tonight only one table was occupied. 2 women were sitting alone at it, though it was set for 4, and there were 4 cocktails on the table. Neither the women's escorts nor Escobier were any place in sight. I said to Madge, honey, there's something funny going on. You stay here while I look around. If you hear any peculiar noises, run out and holler for cops. I walked back toward swinging doors that obviously led into the kitchen and entered a kitchen straight out of a chef's dream of paradise. There were 6 spotless small ranges set against a wall. There were tables with burnished steel tops, all set with an array of carving tools and cooking gadgets. On the walls hung scores of pots, pans, skillets, racks, utensils of every size and shape, all gleaming steel and aluminum, all spotlessly clean. On the other wall, there was a huge icebox with glass doors. And inside it, steaks, chops, trussed-up chickens, turkeys, roasts, sections of ribs, all arranged with an artist's eye for pattern. 2 men were working with grim concentration, each at a range, each in a white apron and tall chef's cap. And sitting in a corner, reading a magazine, was Escobier. He glanced up, recognized me.
Oh, you are not so hungry tonight. You have decided to cook your own dinner?
I took another look around. The 2 engrossed men at the ranges, at Escobier's twinkling eyes. So that's what it is. You let amateur cooks come in here and prepare their own meals. Escobier smiled.
For a price. It is of necessity a high price. There is so much experimentation.
I licked my lips. Oh, brother. I always did want to try a souffle, and this is my big chance. Escobier said,
Yes, and no dishes to wash. That I do.
Well, that's all there was to the mystery of Escobier's success. He capitalized on every man's secret belief that he can cook rings around any woman, given everything he needs, plus a free hand. It cost me a client to find it out, but it's a loss I've never minded. Like I said, man can't live by bread alone, but if it's bread he baked himself, he's generally willing to try. Listen next time to Calling All Detectives, mystery drama, mystery quiz, and a chance for you to match wits with yours truly, Jerry Browning, Private Detective.
Murder at midnight.
That gun won't do you any good. Besides, you're pointing it the wrong way.
I'm pointing it right between your eyes.
That's what I mean.
Midnight. The witching hour when the night is darkest. Our fear is the strongest. And our strength at its lowest ebb. Midnight. When the graves gape open and death strikes. How? You'll learn the answer in just a minute in Wherever I Go. And now, Murder at Midnight. Tales of mystery and terror by masters of the macabre.
Our story, A Study in Crime and Retribution, is by William Morwood. Its title, Wherever I Go.
The music room of an old country mansion. Seated at the piano, playing with the skill of an accomplished musician, is Gordon Ormsby. Engrossed in what he is doing, he is not aware his wife, Ellen, has come in until...
For goodness sakes, Gordon, when are you going to stop that pounding?
What? Well, I thought you enjoyed music, my dear.
I do when it's well played. Oh, don't be childish. You might have a little consideration for my headache.
You and your headaches. There's nothing whatever wrong with you. The doctors have as good as told you that. It's all in your mind. The affectation of a silly rich woman.
Lucky for you I am rich. Well, where would you be now?
Someplace where I'd amount to something. I had talents when I married you, Ellen. I could have been a great musician or a great painter or a writer.
You were what you are now, what you always will be. A dilettante, a dabbler.
It's your money that ruined me, softened me up, robbed me of my ambition.
If you hate my money so much, there's nothing to prevent you walking out on it.
I will. Someday.
Not if I know you. You'll stick around as long as I have a penny left. Oh, my head.
Oh, you poor, poor darling.
Oh, I don't expect sympathy from you, but, when I feel like this, I could kill myself.
That would be too much to hope for.
Wouldn't it be nice for you, Gordon? Little me out of the way, and all my wicked money to spend exactly as you pleased. But don't worry. I'll live to a ripe old age, just to spite you.
I'd never thought of it before. Her dying. Never. But after that, I couldn't get it out of my head. There was so much I could do with her money. I could go abroad, study. But first, I had to get rid of her. It was dangerous even to think about, but I conceived a plan and developed it carefully, slowly, step by step. Ellen, we've got rats in the cellar. I saw signs of them today.
How awful. We must do something about it.
Ellen, have you done anything about those rats?
I ordered some stuff from the drugstore.
Well, there's only one thing that's any good, and you'll have to get a prescription for that. Arsenic. Let's eat home on Thursday, Ellen.
Oh, but it's a servants' night out, and we always go to a restaurant.
I know, but I want to try my hand at cooking up something.
Well, it's sure to be poison, but... All right.
We ate dinner at home on Thursday, the two of us alone together. Afterwards, Ellen complained of a headache and went up to her room. I followed a little later.
This is a surprise.
I brought you a cup of cocoa, my dear, to help put you to sleep.
That's suspiciously thoughtful of you, Gordon.
I'm afraid it's still too hot to drink. I'll put it down here.
What have you done to your hand?
What?
It's all bandaged up.
Oh, I scalded it in the kitchen. It's a nuisance, too. I wanted to write tonight.
What are you working on now, Shakespeare? Your memoirs?
No, dear. I don't expect to die for a while yet. No, it's a story about a girl suffering from an incurable disease who commits suicide.
Sounds morbid to me.
Oh, but it's not. I'm making it very tender and beautiful. As a matter of fact, I did mean to write the death scene tonight. With this hand, I'm... Say, Ellen, would you help me out?
How?
Well, I've got the girl's suicide note all set in my mind. I can't write with this. Would you write it down while I dictate it?
Oh, do it yourself tomorrow.
Oh, please. It'll only take a minute. Please.
Oh, all right. Where's some paper?
Here.
But that's my very best stationery. I hate to waste it.
It won't be wasted. Ready?
Yes.
Here goes. It's, I can't stand the pain any longer. Nobody knows how much I've suffered. Death will be peaceful compared to this.
Wait a minute.
What? What's wrong?
You're going too fast.
Oh.
Death will be... What?
Peaceful compared to this. Forgive me for what I'm doing, but this is the only way out. Signed...
Yes?
Ellen.
What?
I named her that, dear, because she reminded me of you, so noble in her suffering. I thought you'd be pleased.
Well, I'm not. You'll have to think of some other name.
All right. Jane.
Jane?
You remember Jane Turner, the girl I was going with when I met you? I don't think she'd mind.
But I would. There. It's signed Ellen.
Thank you, my dear. You don't know how much this means to me.
Oh, my head's splitting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cocoa? Drink it. That should end your headache. Drink it, Ellen.
Tastes queer.
Well, I couldn't find the sugar, so I sweetened it with maple syrup.
Well, I don't suppose it'll kill me.
Drink it all. Drink it all.
There. Oh.
What's the matter?
Oh, that pain. Gordon, do something. Why are you?
You won't be long now, Ellen.
You mean
that arsenic you bought for the rats.
You're mad. They'll hang you for this.
No, Ellen. Oh, no. You have left a note behind. It's a clear case of suicide. I was shaking all over. Yet my nerves had to be steady for what lay ahead of me. My own life depended on it. Music, that would relax me. The piano. I raced downstairs for the music room, but before I reached it, I heard the playing. I pushed open the door. A man was sitting there. A man I'd never seen before, but who was somehow vaguely familiar.
Hello.
Who are you?
Don't you know?
Well, of course not. What are you doing here?
There was nobody at the piano. I didn't think you'd mind.
Well, I do mind. How'd you get in? The door's locked.
Is it? I didn't notice.
Breaking and entering, huh? I've got a good mind to call the police.
I'm sorry you're so suspicious. Still, I realize the strain you must be under.
What do you mean by that?
I'm afraid I'm interrupting you in business vital to both of us. I'll call again some other time.
No, wait. You can't leave like this. At least tell me your name.
I have many different names. When the time comes, you can call me by any one of them. Goodbye.
I put the stranger out of my mind. Too much depended on the telephone call I had to make. A single slip-up now, and a rope was waiting for me. I dialed with shaking fingers. Dr. Sampson, this is Gordon Ormsby. You must come at once. Ellen is dead. I think she's taken poison. It worked out, just as I'd planned, just as I'd hoped it would. The doctor's visit, the police, the inquest, no false moves, no suspicions. I became the sole inheritor of a large estate and a free man. I moved out of the old house and into a hotel suite in town. I don't know when it started to happen, but I first knew that something was wrong, and my fingers would no longer obey me at the piano. Nothing but count. Rather, nothing but discords. I decided that my nerves were overstrained, that I needed a rest. I figured a trip somewhere would do me good. I went to the telephone to order my car brought around first thing in the morning, but before I picked up the receiver... Yes?
I'm going with you, Gordon.
Who is this?
Your friend. I'll see you first thing in the morning.
But...
Operator!
You cut me off. I was making a very important call.
There must be some mistake, sir. There was no call on your line.
I didn't wait. I couldn't. I packed that evening. I slipped a gun into my pocket. I left the hotel. By 11 o'clock, I was far out in the open country, driving west. The night was pitch black. And every mile, I burrowed further into the darkness. And suddenly, a terrible conviction came over me. I knew I wasn't alone.
I'm coming up front now, Gordon.
You!
I said I was coming with you.
When did you get in this car?
I've been here right along. You drive well, Gordon. A cool head and a steady hand. But then you had to have them, didn't you?
What does that mean?
I was just thinking out loud. The money's nice, but music means a lot, too, doesn't it? A pity that went sour on you.
Look, I don't know who you are or what you're talking about.
And yet you proved a point to Ellen. You proved that you were an artist in a way, even though she couldn't live to appreciate it. Her death was your masterpiece.
The sweat stood out on my forehead. My mouth was dry. I didn't want it this way. One murder was enough to haunt me. But he left me with no alternative. He knew too much. Somewhere along that road, when the night was darkest, I knew I had to kill the stranger.
Yes. The mysterious stranger seems to know a great deal. Is it possible he knows even more than Gordon suspects about his plan for...
Murder at midnight.
Now here is Gordon Ormsby to continue our story.
I knew what I was looking for. A lonely stretch of road with no sign of life. At last the headlights found it. A valley with trees growing down to the edge of the road. The stranger seemed asleep, but he stirred as I jammed on the brakes.
Hey, what's wrong, Gordon?
Must have a flat. The wheel feels funny. Would you mind having a look?
That would be very unwise for me.
Why?
You have a gun in your pocket. I would make a perfect target out in the headlights.
Well, since you're so suspicious. Here, take it.
You amuse me, Gordon. However...
How do they look?
All right on this side.
I'm sure it's one of the front tires.
I'll see the other side.
Got him. I got him. He was standing squarely in front of the radiator when I got him. Just to make sure, I backed the car over his body. I dragged him across the ditch and into the woods. I dug a shallow grave with a tire iron, hacking in among the roots and the rocks. And then I covered him over. I got back into the car. I needed a drink. And when I came to a juke joint along the highway, I stopped.
All right. What's yours, mister?
Scotch, straight.
You been driving hard, mister?
Why?
You look all in.
Give me another shot. No, wait. Look, I'll buy the bottle.
I don't always want to sell. You know, scotch is hard to get around here.
I'll pay for it. I took the bottle over to a booth and began putting it away. I felt better. Warm inside. It was going to be all right after all. The stranger was dead, and they'd never find his body. I was in the clear with nothing to worry about.
Help a poor blind man. Help a blind man.
There was something about that blind man's stick that got on my nerves. Came up to my table.
Help the old blind man, please.
Get away from here.
Please, sir, if you'd be so kind.
Will you get away?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I don't want any favors from anyone.
I said beat it.
I'm going, but you shouldn't have done that.
What's going on here? What's the idea of shoving Nettie?
He was annoying me. Then I saw him. He had the blind man by the elbow and was leading him toward the door. The stranger.
What's the matter with you, mister? What are you staring at?
There. Don't you see him?
Oh, blind Ned? Well, sure.
No. The man with him, opening the door.
There's nobody with him. Blind Ned don't need nobody. He's been going in and out of here by himself for years.
But it was he. I knew it was. I'd killed him, buried him, and... Well, was he dead or wasn't he? I had to know. I drove back up the road. There were the trees and the broken weeds and the ditch through which I'd dragged the body. I walked carefully among the leaves, searching for the grave.
Hello there.
What?
What you doing?
Oh, who are you?
State trooper. Saw your car parked on the road, followed you in.
Well, I'm looking for my watch. I lost it here this afternoon at a picnic. I didn't realize it until I got home, so of course...
Sure, I'll help you.
Oh, no, please don't bother.
No bother, I got a flashlight here.
Well, it's awfully nice of you, but I don't think...
Hey, what's this?
Huh? Where?
Ground's all scraped up into a... Looks like a grave.
Well, what would a grave be doing here?
That's what I'd like to know. Give me a hand, will you? Fresh dirt and rocks digs easy.
Why...
What's the matter? Scared?
Oh, no. It's
just down to the bottom anyhow. Oh. Well, I'll be...
What is it?
It's a grave, all right. But if there was ever a body in it, it's gone now.
I had only one idea after that. To get away. To get away as far away as possible. I drove like a wild man the rest of the night and all next day, stopping only for gas. Finally, I just couldn't drive any farther. I stopped at a small hotel, went up to the desk to register.
Sign here, please.
I'm driving across country, and I've got to start first thing in the morning.
Certainly, Mr.
Ormsby.
Okay. What time would you like to be called?
At daylight. And another thing, I don't want to be disturbed under any circumstances.
Yes, sir.
That's important. No matter who wants to see me, on what excuse, I don't want to be
I
disturbed.
understand, Mr. Ormsby. Now, if you follow the porter.
The elevator doors were just closing when I saw him. He'd come in from the street and was walking across the lobby to the desk. I reached my room, dismissed the bellhop, and locked the door. With a shaking hand, I picked up the telephone.
Yes, clerk?
This is Mr. Ormsby. I thought I recognized a friend of mine in the lobby. A man about the same height and build as myself, dressed in a gray suit.
I'm afraid...
Well, he came in right after me. I haven't seen him in some time, and I've forgotten his name. Would you mind looking in the register and telling me what it is?
Just a minute now, look. Here we are. Your signature, Mr. Ormsby, and then...
Yes?
I'm sorry, sir. There is something, but the name's blotted. I can't make it out.
I knew now there was no escape. I took the money from my billfold and piled it on the table. I examined my revolver to make sure it was loaded. And then I sat and waited. A few minutes before midnight, the knock came. Come in.
Hello. You act as if you were expecting me.
I was. The only thing I'm not sure about is what you want. Or rather, how much.
You should know.
All the cash I've got's on the table. Nearly $500.
Ellen left you a good deal more than that.
All right, I'll write you out a check. Name the amount.
Everything you possess.
What? You're crazy. Do you honestly think, after the risks I took, the risks I'm still taking, I'd give everything away to a cheap blackmailer?
Murder is an expensive hobby, Gordon.
Well, not that expensive. If you want to be reasonable, say $50,000.
I'm afraid there's no compromise. And I'm not just talking about money.
Listen, this is your last chance. 50,000 or...
Or what, Gordon?
Or you don't leave this room alive.
You tried to kill me once before. Remember?
I lost my head. The car only stunned you, and I didn't make sure that you were dead. It'll be different this time.
It's always going to be different, isn't it, Gordon? When you disposed of Ellen, you were going to lead such a rich, beautiful life. But what happened to it? Your music went. You couldn't play.
You shut up.
And then your heart went. You struck out at an old blind man.
Listen, you.
There isn't very much left now, except your mind. And that's starting to go, too. Sometimes you see me, sometimes you don't.
I see you now. Large as life. But do you see this?
That gun won't do you any good. Besides, you're pointing it the wrong way.
I'm pointing it right between your eyes.
That's what I mean.
Well, you... He was gone. Yes, gone. Nowhere in the room. maze. Mechanically, I opened it.
Anything wrong, mister?
What? Who are you?
The house detective. I thought I
Oh,
heard...
you must have seen him. He must have run past you in the corridor.
Who?
The stranger, the man who was in my room.
Oh, I did? Hey, be careful of that gun.
Well, I had to shoot him. He was threatening me. He was standing over there when I let him have it.
Oh, yeah?
What did he look like? He was about my height and build, wearing a gray suit.
Like the one you're wearing?
Hmm? Oh, yes.
I thought so. Look.
At what?
The mirror. You shot at your own reflection.
You mean...
Now do you know who I am, Gordon?
There, didn't you hear him?
Hear what? What are you talking about?
No. No, you wouldn't hear. Only I would. And now I do know who and what he is. I know why I couldn't escape him. Here, take this gun. I want to give myself up.
Give yourself up?
My name is Gordon Ormsby. I killed my wife. I poisoned her. I made it look like suicide, and there never was any trial.
Oh, I get it.
It
Sure,
was a perfect
sure.
crime. At least I thought it was a perfect crime until he came into the picture.
Now, don't you worry about it one bit, Mr. Ormsby. You just
Wait a
come
minute.
along with
Wait a
me.
minute. You think I'm making it up? That I'm crazy, don't you?
No,
You do
no.
think so. But it's true. Every word of it.
Sure, I got a good friend who's a doctor. You tell him...
Doctor. No. No, he won't believe me either. Nobody will believe me. They'll all think that I'm mad. Oh, don't you see? That's why I have to give myself up. Because that's the only way I can get away from him. If you hang me. But if you don't...
They won't, Gordon. They'll put you away. And wherever you go, I'll be there, too. Remember that? Wherever you go.
Taking him firmly by the arm, the detective leads the struggling Gordon out into the corridor. A corridor that grows darker and darker until it is completely black. Somewhere in that blackness, a voice is whispering. Whispering. And it continues to whisper until it is drowned by a clock striking 12 for...
Murder at midnight.
Remember to be with us again when death whispers softly in the night and the clocks strike 12 for
Murder at midnight.
The part of Gordon Ormsby was played by Barry Kroger. With music by Charles Paul, Murder at Midnight was directed by Anton M. Leader.
This I believe. Alfred Frankenstein is music and art critic of the San Francisco Chronicle. He has taught music and art at the University of Chicago, the University of California, Mills College, Stanford University, and Harvard. In addition, he is program annotator for the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra. Because his work is so vitally important to him, he states his beliefs in its vocabulary. Here is Alfred Frankenstein.
Man is born with a passion for order into a confused, disorderly world, and his whole life is spent in constructing order out of the chaos of his environment. Politics, ethics, applied science, and the minor arts create a practical order to ease man's physical existence. Religion, philosophy, pure science, and the major arts reflect man's conviction that beyond the chaotic realities of everyday experience there lies a deeper reality which has intelligible form. This passion for order is universal and eternal, but it expresses itself in widely varying forms at different times and in different places. I believe that the forms which should be of first importance to every man are those of his own time and his own place, because they exhibit the meanings of his own life and his own world. The forms of the past and of distant localities are, to be sure, of immense importance also. But any view of human culture which does not stress its continuity with the present is, in my opinion, completely false. The American past and the American present mean most to me in my work as a critic of music and the visual arts. The American past is the last great unexplored frontier of humanistic scholarship. We have always valued our literature, but we have taken far too modest a view of our historic achievement in other arts, and now we are discovering that they possess depths and reaches of the profoundest significance and value. To be sure, all the evaluations of the past are based upon and conditioned by the creative preoccupations of the present, and therefore many of our present re-evaluations of the past will themselves be re-evaluated in the future. But now, for the first time, we are making many explorations into the arts of the American tradition. The American present is, of course, a battleground of conflicting evaluations, and nowhere are these evaluations more heatedly at variance than in the two fields of cultural activity with which I am concerned. This very fact speeds the critical elbow. It lends urgency and special point to the critic's work, for better or for worse. At the same time, it confronts the critic with his most difficult problems. It is no easy matter to hew to the line of creative vitality in today's welter of varied art forms. To perceive genuinely and without partisanship is, in fact, a kind of tightrope performance, and the critic negotiating that perilous walkway must use a balancing stick composed in equal parts of fascination and skepticism. The critic who takes his stand on the here and now may often, in the long view, be wrong. His choices may and should be subject to frequent and drastic revision. Minor consistency will not be one of his major virtues, and his attitudes will not stand still. But he will be of some use to his time, if only as an irritant. As Charles Ives put it in his essays before Sonata, a narcotic is not always unnecessary, but it is seldom a basis of progress. This is quite as true in the art of criticism as in Ives' own art of music.
There the creed of Alfred Frankenstein of San Francisco, California. He is the author of a forthcoming book on the history of American still life painting.
What is it?
Another case for Nick Carter, master detective.
Yes, it's another case for that most famous of all manhunters, the detective whose ability at solving crime is unequaled in the history of detective fiction, Nick Carter, master detective. Tonight's curious adventure,
State's Prison Evidence, on Nick Carter and the mystery of the midnight robbery.
Pardon me, could you let me have a line?
Certainly. There you are.
Swell night, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. It's a pleasure to walk on a night like this.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Not at all.
Good night.
Good night. Yes, even in a big city like this, the stars are just...
Help!
What?
Help!
I wonder what's wrong with her.
Help!
I beg your pardon, but is there anything I can do? Can I help you? Is something wrong?
Murder!
Murder? Who is it?
My uncle.
When did it happen?
I don't know.
Well, where is he?
The library.
In this big house right here?
Yes. Oh, it's awful.
You shouldn't be out here in your night clothes. It's chilly. Come, let me take you back to the house. Come on.
Yes. Back to the house.
Did you call the police?
No, I just saw him lying there in a pool of blood. Then I came out here to get help.
Well, I'm Nick Carter, the detective. I'll be glad to help you if I can. Now, careful going up the steps. There we are. Now, you'll show me the library.
He's in there.
Oh, yes, I see. He's dead, all right. Who found him?
The housekeeper. She came in late and saw a light still on in here. And she looked in to see if he needed anything and saw...
Then she called you?
Yes.
And you are...
I'm Ella Jarbeau, his niece. I've lived here with him for the last 5 years since my mother died.
I see. Has anything been touched since the body was found?
No. Nobody's been in here at all.
Good. Uh-huh. Shot through the head. Close range. Well, it looks as if he did it himself.
No.
Well, here's the pistol that was used, right beside him. Did you hear the shot?
No. I sleep at the opposite end of the house. Oh, Mr. Carter, please find whoever killed my uncle.
What makes you think he didn't kill himself?
He wouldn't do a thing like that. I know it.
Well, that's hardly evidence, Miss Ella. Did you see this note?
Note? I know.
Your uncle apparently left it propped up here in his desk. It's addressed to Mrs. Sarah Jarbeau, 7 Dunner Street, City. Do you know her?
I never heard of her. What does it say?
Let's see. My dear madam, you've been a widow, in fact, ever since the hour following our marriage. But before day breaks, you will be a widow in name also, for I shall be dead. I have at last learned the truth. The one who told me right after our wedding ceremony that you were everything evil has at last confessed that you were really as good as I believed you to be. It's too late for me to ask you to forgive me for the great wrong I've done you. So I'm taking this way of making what amends I can. The upper drawer of my desk is my will, which leaves everything to you, your repentant husband, Enos Jarbeau. Oh, that's a remarkable document. Did you know anything about your uncle ever having been married?
No, I never heard that before.
Well, that note would seem to prove it was suicide.
I know better. May I see that note?
Of course. Here.
I knew it, Mr. Carter. My uncle didn't kill himself, and he didn't write this note either.
Isn't that your uncle's handwriting?
It looks very much like it, but he didn't write it. Uncle didn't use this kind of pen.
What do you mean?
Uncle Enos was very proud of his handwriting, and he never used anything but a special type of old-fashioned steel pen point. It has a very fine point.
I see. Yes. This note was undoubtedly written with a stub point.
Another thing, Mr. Carter. Uncle never wrote anywhere except at his desk here. And this desk has been locked since yesterday morning, and I have the key.
How long have you had it?
I borrowed it yesterday morning because I had some letters to write, and I've had it ever since.
Is there another key to this desk?
No. Uncle would never write anywhere else.
You're quite a convincing detective, Miss Ella. And if you're right, this can't be suicide, in spite of the other evidence.
I know I'm right. Uncle would never have taken his own life.
I believe you. And I'm just curious enough about this to do a little investigating myself. If I'm as good a detective as you are, I'll find your uncle's murderer in short order.
You think this Mrs. Sarah Blake is the woman you want, Nick?
I'm not sure, Patsy. But when the maid told me that she never heard of Mrs. Sarah Jarbeau, but that Mrs. Sarah Blake lives here, I thought I'd better talk to her. She might be Mrs. Jarbeau using her maiden name.
Here she comes now.
You wish to speak to me?
I'm looking for Mrs. Sarah Jarbeau. Do you know her?
I do. I am Sarah Jarbeau.
You were right, Nick.
My name is Bill Peters. I'm a reporter. I'm writing a story on the sudden death of your husband, Enos Jarbeau.
Oh, the poor man. He died to make up to me for my years of heartbreak.
Yes, I saw the note he left. Would you please tell me what happened?
Well, I met him one summer on the coast of Maine. We were married in the fall. We took a train for Boston, and on the way he went into the smoking car to smoke a cigar. I never saw him again.
Why, that's terrible. Why didn't he come back?
I only know that when the train reached the station, a messenger gave me $500 and a note.
Oh.
It said that he had learned I was not a good woman, and that I should never see him again.
But didn't you try to clear it up?
No. If he believed it, I would never seek to persuade him otherwise. I've worked as a governess ever since.
I see. Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Jarbo. Come along, Patsy.
Goodbye, Mrs. Jarbo. I hope you'll be happy now.
Thank you, and goodbye.
She certainly got a tough break.
You know, Patsy, I was prepared to doubt everything she told me, but somehow I'm inclined to believe her story, even if it does spoil my theory that she's part of an elaborate put-up job.
Which way are you going from here?
Well, I think I'll...
Pardon me, would you let me have a light?
Yes, of course. Here you are.
Thanks. Nice day, isn't it?
Yes, very pleasant.
Thanks. So long.
So long. Well, come along, Patsy. Wait a minute. I've met that man somewhere before. He asked me for a light just that same way. Where was it? Well, of course. It was outside Jarbo's house last night, right after the murder.
You mean you think he...
Wait a minute, watch a minute. I want to see if he... Yes.
He's going into the house we just left.
Right. If he and Mrs. Jarbo know each other, the chances are her story is a phony.
Oh, but Nick, she seems...
I know it, Patsy, but this changes things. Patsy, I want you to find out what you can about old Enos Jarbo's past. Find out about that marriage, if there ever was one. But first, call Scubby and tell him to get here right away.
Okay.
That man leaves before Scubby gets here. I'll follow myself. Otherwise, Scubby can tail him. But I've got to know where he goes and what he does. Right now, he's our one positive clue.
Is it all right to talk in here, Nick?
The lobby of a big hotel is probably the safest place in the world to talk in, Scubby. Well, what'd you find out?
Well, I followed him over to a saloon over on 3rd Avenue.
Yeah?
There was a fellow waiting there for him. I tried to hear what they talked about, but all I could get was the name Jarbo. Yeah, I heard that several times.
I thought so.
But just as I was really getting in close, a couple of plainclothes cops came along and pinched him.
Pinched him? What for?
Well, it seems he broke out of state's prison 3 days ago. I heard the cops call him Barney McCoy.
Barney McCoy.
Yeah.
Jailbird from state's prison. Pardon me, Scubby. Want to speak to the desk clerk?
Oh, sure, Nick, but what do you have to...
Oh, clerk, I'd like to speak to the governor's suite, please.
Yes, Mr. Carter. Use booth number 2 right over there, please.
Thank you.
Oh, Nick, what in the world do you want to talk to the governor for?
Just haven't remembered, Scubby. He's stopping at this very hotel for a few days. I want him to do me... Hello, Mr. Secretary. Well, this is Nick Carter. I'd like to speak to the governor a moment, if I may. Thank you. Hello, Governor. This is Nick Carter. Fine, thanks. Governor, I want to go to state's prison. Oh, no, not as a visitor. I want to go as a convict.
Nick, are you nuts?
No, I mean it. If you can spare me 5 minutes, I think I can convince you. Thanks. I'll be right up. Ella, I asked you to meet me here at my office because I'm going to be out of town for a few days, and I want to have everything straight before I leave. Has anything further happened?
Nothing, Mr. Carter, except that Mrs. Jarbo has installed herself in the house as its mistress. She's very unpleasant to me, and I know she'd like me to leave.
Now, you stay right there. Did the will leave anything to you?
No, Mr. Carter. Everything went to her. I can't understand it.
I can. That will is forged.
But the will is in Uncle's handwriting, and both the witnesses to the will have identified their signatures as genuine. And the will was found where the note said it would be.
Nevertheless, I'm convinced the will's a fake. Betsy, what did you find out?
Enos Jarbo and Sarah Blake were married right enough. I found the record in a little church on the south side.
Sarah really is his wife. Forged will doesn't make sense. And neither does a suicide note, which Jarbo didn't write.
Maybe he did kill himself after all, Mr. Carter. Maybe he just forgot about me.
No, I don't believe it, Ella.
I don't either. And Ella, I'm going to prove I'm right, even if I have to go to jail to do it.
Oh, you're the new man.
Yeah, Warden.
What's your name?
Max Herbert.
Where were you born?
Buffalo, New York.
How old are you?
33.
Nationality?
American.
Married?
Nope.
Crime?
Housebreaking.
Very well. The guard will take you to the photographer's and then to the laboratory.
Well, fella, you've been here 3 days. How do you like working in this shoe shop?
I don't like it. Not cut out for it.
What are you in for?
Second story job. What'd I get you for?
Cracking a safe. There's 4 of us. 2 of them got away. Me and McCoy was nailed cold.
McCoy? Hey, you wouldn't mean Barney McCoy, would you?
Yeah, you know him?
Sure, know him well. Great guy.
Yeah, sure is. And you know his wife?
Yeah, some.
He's a darn smart woman, Addie is.
Addie?
Yeah.
Thought her name was Sarah.
No, his wife's Addie. Sarah was his sister. Yeah, they look so much alike you couldn't tell one from the other.
Yeah. Well, what became of Sarah?
I don't know. She married some rich guy for his money, but left her flat. I don't know what happened after that. Addie's still in town waiting for Mac to get out.
Yeah, he did break out. A few days ago. He just caught him and brought him back here.
Yeah, they got him on a rock pile for trying to escape.
Hey, cut out that talking, you guys. Get back to work.
Okay.
So Barney McCoy's on the rock pile now. I rather think I'd like to be transferred to the rock pile myself. Hey, Barney.
Yeah.
Look, you've known me now for almost 2 weeks.
Yeah. So what?
You know I wouldn't give you a bum steer, don't you?
What are you leading up to, Max?
I'm working on a way to get out of here. Before I come up here, I heard you on the level. I'd like to let you in on it.
Where did you ever hear of me outside this place?
Big town. A girl named Sarah told me about you.
What?
You married her sister, Addie.
Do you know Sarah?
Sure. About 5-6 years ago. Haven't seen her since, though.
Sarah's in Europe now.
Yeah.
When are you planning on getting out of here?
As soon as I get the necessary people lined up.
If I had some dough, we could get out of here tomorrow.
How much do you need?
About 200 to start with.
Okay. I'll have it for you tomorrow.
Okay, Max. You get that stuff and we'll be out of here in 2 days.
All right, you get 5 minutes to talk.
Hey, Nick, why don't you...
Hold it. I'm Max Herbert in here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have remembered. How in the world did you ever get in this place?
Well, the governor fixed it so that I was caught red-handed robbing the home of a friend of his. Yeah. When they caught me, I had the family silver in one hand and the family jewels in the other. It was easy. And I arranged to be transferred to the gang where McCoy's working.
Well, have you found anything?
Yes, but it's all circumstantial. But Barney McCoy and I are breaking out of here day after tomorrow. And I'm hoping to get some proof then.
Are you sure you're getting out of here?
Yes. One of the keepers is working with us.
Oh.
I think this same keeper fixed McCoy's getaway last time. And I also think, from what I've heard, that he may have helped in Jarbo's murder.
Yeah?
I've learned positively that he was absent from the prison on leave that day.
But isn't there danger if you're getting hurt if you try to break out of here?
Of course there is. I have to take that chance. I've got to stick to McCoy. Don't worry, Scubby. I'll be all right. I hope. You all set, McCoy?
All set. Everything's fixed.
Good.
You see that delivery truck over there, Max?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to break down when it tries to start.
I get it.
We'll have to help it get out of the yard here.
Right.
Listen. He's trying to start it now.
The guard all set?
Sure. Mike's with us all the way, same as before.
Hey, you over there.
That's us. Come on.
Give us a hand with this truck.
Okay. What's the matter?
Motor won't start. Have to give him a push. You two get a hold here and give him a start.
Okay, Mike.
The rest of you guys get back to work.
All right, get your shoulder behind it, Max.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right.
Heave. All right, again. Heave.
Once more.
Well, come on, get it going. We ain't got all day. Heave.
As soon as the motor starts, jump on the truck.
Right, I got you. Okay, again. There.
Come on, Max.
I'm in. Get down so they can't see you.
Look, bridge over the railroad tracks is just ahead. When we get over the tracks, be ready to jump.
Be right with you.
right. Now, come on.
Right behind you, Barney.
Jump on the tender of that engine below us. Now, okay.
You all right, McCoy?
Yeah. Come on, engineer. Give her all the steam you got. Don't stop to talk. You, fireman, feed the coal to her. I don't want to use this gun unless I have to. Watch out, Max. The outside wall of the prison's just ahead. You better duck. There's going to be shooting.
Right, McCoy. All okay so far?
Oh, there it comes. Watch it.
Look at her pour it on.
Well, we're out of jail now. And for good.
It's good to see you back in your office again, Mr. Carter.
Yes, it's good to be back here, Ella. Now tell me, have you learned anything interesting since I last saw you?
I think so, Mr. Carter.
Now, let's have it.
A few months ago, our housekeeper spent about a month visiting her son in California. Before she went, she put an ad in the paper for a temporary housekeeper. Several women answered the ad, and Mrs. Martin was given the job. She had light brown hair and wore dark glasses. I disliked her on sight, and I'm sure she disliked me. When our housekeeper returned, this Mrs. Martin left, and I never saw her again until the day my uncle was buried.
What do you mean, Ella?
On that day, she presented herself as my uncle's widow.
Your uncle's widow?
Yes, Mr. Carter. When she first came to live in the house after the funeral, I thought there was something very familiar about her. But not until a few days ago did I suddenly realize that Mrs. Jarbeau was Mrs. Martin, with black hair instead of brown and without her dark glasses.
Ella, could you swear to that?
No, but some of her little mannerisms, certain tricks of speech, a funny way of walking, all make me positive.
That explains the mystery of how the fake will was forged. While Mrs. Martin was substituting for the housekeeper, she could have found out about the will, taken it out, had a new one forged, and then returned it. The night your uncle was murdered, the forged will was substituted for the original one in the desk drawer by using a duplicate key that had been prepared in advance.
And it might interest you, Nick, to know that when Ella told me this the other day, I checked at the house where we first met Mrs. Jarbeau. The woman there told me that Mrs. Jarbeau was away on a visit during the month that Mrs. Martin took the place of Ella's housekeeper.
Good work. That settles it, Patsy.
Just a minute, Mr. Carter. There's another thing you better know.
Something else?
Yes, Mr. Carter. Last evening, a strange man came to the house. He and Mrs. Jarbeau were apparently old friends because she called him Mac.
Barney McCoy.
She took him up to her room where I heard them talking for a long time. I tried to hear what they were saying but couldn't get close enough. But I did hear him say it was time to get that girl out of the way for good. And then Mrs. Jarbeau said that now that Mac was back, it was time to wind up the job.
Well, Ella, if everything goes as I hope it will, we'll be the ones to wind up the job, not Mrs. Jarbeau.
Anything else you want me to do?
Yes. Meet me in the rear of your home tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. We'll make our final arrangements then. In the meantime, sit tight and keep your ears and eyes open.
Mr. Carter? Mr. Carter?
That you, Ella?
Yes. Come into the living room here. We can talk better.
Okay. Sure there's no one around?
Not now. That man Mac was here earlier, but he left quite a while ago. Mrs. Jarbeau has gone up to her room. We can talk safely here.
All right. Don't turn on the light. Maybe seen. We can talk just as well in the dark.
Whatever you say.
Now tell me, does Mrs. Jarbeau know you've ever seen this man, Mac?
Oh, no. I've kept out of the way whenever he's been around.
Good. Do you know what he came here for this evening?
There was talk about chloroform and poison. And then she told him the lawyer for the estate was here this afternoon and said that she would be in full legal possession of the estate in another few days.
I see.
And then he said that if that was the case, it was the time to act before it was too late.
Well, it's time for us to act, too. I think we better... Quiet.
Somebody's unlocking the door through which we came.
Maybe they won't come in here.
Who's in this room? I can't see you in the dark, but I know you're there. Who's there?
Who are you?
None of your business. Speak up or I'll shoot.
If you do, you'll never live to see another day.
What's going on in here? Why isn't the light on?
Mrs. Jarbeau.
Ella, what are you
Barney
doing
McCoy,
here?
you...
Max Herbert, by all that's holy. What are you doing here?
you see, Barney,
Yeah?
He's here because he loves me.
Don't you know this man is an ex-convict? He ought to be serving a sentence in state's prison right now.
Yes, I know that.
Well, that's why we had to meet like this, Barney.
Is this true, Ella?
Yes, Mrs. Jarboe, it is.
Look here, you. You interviewed me a couple of weeks ago, said you were writing a story for your paper. You said then your name was Peters. Now you say it's Herbert.
Well, my real name is Herbert Peters, ma'am. You see,
And you? What are you doing here?
I'm a night watchman on duty in this neighborhood. I saw this man come in here and followed him. Recognized him as a suspicious character.
You're both lying. Get out of here, both of you, immediately. And as for you, Ella, get upstairs at once. I'll deal with you later.
Yeah, that's all the thanks I get for trying to protect your place against thieves. I will get out. Come on, you.
Go ahead, Barney. I'm coming. Good night, Ella, dear.
And see that you never come back. Either of you.
Hey, Max.
Yeah?
Was that story about you and the girl straight?
Why, sure, Barney. Wasn't your story on the level?
Well, to tell you the truth, I was going to see if I could find a few things I could swipe. I'm flat broke. You haven't got a few bucks on you, have you?
Sure, Barney. I can let you have a 10 spot.
What?
Here.
Gee, thanks, pal. I won't forget you for this.
Forget it. Yeah, we sure were lucky to get out of there so easy.
Yeah. I thought the old dame was going to have us pinched.
You're under arrest, both of you. Don't try to have it right. There you go. Stop, or I'll shoot. No, you don't. You let go of my arm. You made me miss it.
So what?
Well, I got you anyway. You won't get away. You're going back to state's prison again, Mr. Max Herbert.
Oh, you know my name, do you?
I sure do.
And I know yours, Ben Lyons.
But, what? You know me? Hey, let me look at you.
Gladly. Come over onto the street light.
All right.
You know me now?
Well, Nick Carter. Well, I'll be... Well, gosh, I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, but a woman just called the station, said she'd passed 2 escaped convicts in front of her house, and if we hurried, we could pick them up. Even give us their names, too,
Well,
so
never mind
I...
that now, Ben. Listen to me. I'm on the trail of something big. Have the lieutenant and 8 men meet me at 12 o'clock tomorrow night at the back of the Jarbeau place across the street where they won't be seen.
Okay.
Be sure to tell them not to fail me, because I expect to capture the murderers of Enos Jarbeau. Are all the men posted as we agreed, Scubby?
Yes, Nick. Outside and inside the house.
Good.
They have orders to let anybody come up here, but to let nobody go downstairs again.
Then we're ready for the finale in this case.
What's that you've got there, Nick?
It's a new type of microphone, Patsy.
Oh.
I've attached it to the wall between this room and Mrs. Jarbeau's room.
Mm-hmm.
Through the vibration of the wall, it'll pick up whatever is said in her room. Then whatever is picked up is amplified so that it's loud enough for us to hear it. The amplifier also has a recording device which makes a permanent record of the conversation on a wire tape.
Gosh, what will they think of next?
Quiet now. Let's listen. I'll turn it on.
But I tell you, Barney, we can't lose. In a few more days, the whole Jarbeau estate will be mine, legally.
I know, Addie, but can you handle that girl for a few days more?
That's
well, if I can't, we'll give her what we gave the old man.
Do we have to?
If she's dead, we know she ain't going to bother us.
Yeah.
So we bet...
Hey, what the devil's that?
Quiet. How do I know? The housekeeper's answering us.
Hey, somebody's coming up here.
Did you tell anybody you were laughing?
Anybody here?
Mike! What are you doing here?
Well, that's a fine question to ask me. I'm here because you sent for me.
Who sent for you?
You did, McCoy.
You crazy? I did nothing of the kind.
I got your note this morning. Here it is.
What?
Come to Jarbeau House tonight, but not before 12. Everything okay. Very important. And it's signed Barney.
Listen, I never wrote that note.
Well, if you didn't, it means trouble for us. Somebody else knows about this business besides us 3.
You mean we're caught?
We ain't caught yet, but we will be if we don't watch our step. Even now...
I was afraid of this. I knew I should have kept out of it.
Ah, shut up, you rat. You're not in jail yet.
But I'm going to be. I can feel it coming.
Don't shut up, Mike. I'll brain you.
You did it, McCoy. You fired the shot that killed the old man. I just... Shut up, you stupid liar!
Come on, kids. That's enough of that. Let's go.
Right with you, Nick.
I'll take it easy, Stella. Wait a minute, will you?
I can't wait any longer.
Get your hands up, both of you. And no funny business.
Max, what are you...
No, McCoy, not Max. Nick Carter.
Nick Carter?
You ain't got nothing on us. Oh, Nick's got enough on you three to send you to the chair.
Yes, McCoy, we know the whole plot from beginning to end.
Tell him what we found out, Nick. What do you mean?
It means I know that Sarah married Jarbeau, and that shortly afterwards she died. You, Addie, her sister, married McCoy. When Sarah died, you found her marriage certificate and decided to use your resemblance to her to get the old man's money. McCoy was in prison then, but you arranged with the guard Mike here to help McCoy escape when the time was right. Then to pay Mike for his trouble, you cut him in the deal. Then you, Addie, got that temporary job here as a housekeeper, which was an unexpected break. While you were here, you had the fake will made. Then when all was ready, McCoy escaped as planned. Mike came with him, and between the three of you, you chloroformed old Jarbeau, and then shot him in such a way that it looked like suicide.
How do you know it wasn't suicide?
The suicide note you left for the old man. Whoever Addie got to forge that will for her did such an expert job that the witnesses recognized their own forged signatures as genuine. But whoever wrote that suicide note was so clumsy that he wrote it with a blunt-pointed fountain pen instead of the sharp-pointed steel pen that was the only pen Jarbeau ever used.
That ain't proof. That's guessing.
We've got plenty of proof, McCoy. And if that isn't enough, to top it all off, the conversation in this room between you three crooks has been recorded in full for the past 20 minutes. And if that isn't practically a confession and good legal evidence in any court, my name isn't Nick Carter.
This was another strange experience of Nick Carter, Master Detective, called State's Prison Evidence, or Nick Carter and the Mystery of the Midnight Murder. Another of the curious adventures of Nick Carter, which are brought to you regularly at the same time each week by WOR Mutual. And now, Nick, what about our story for next week?
Well, next week's story started off as a simple question of who stole the firm's funds.
But it ended up by being the very perplexing question of who killed two men and caused the death of a third.
And not the least puzzling part of the case was to find out who fired the fatal bullet which started off the murders.
Isn't that usually the most puzzling part of a murder story?
Well, yes, it is. But in this case, the man who was killed was standing by my side in the corridor of a large office building. And there was no one around at the time who could have fired the gun that killed him.
I'm afraid I'm getting more mixed up all the time.
That's exactly how we felt about it. But Nick cleared it all up in spite of everything.
And we'll tell you all about it next week. So long.
So long, folks.
And so long to you, Nick and Patsy. See you next week. In the strange adventure you've just heard, Nick Carter was impersonated by Lon Clark, Patsy by Helen Choate, and Scubby by John Kane. Original music was played by Lew White. The entire production was written and directed by Jock McGregor. Next week at the same time, another curious experience of Nick Carter entitled
An Angle on Murder, or Nick Carter and the Mystery of the Mutilated Bullet.
This story is a copyrighted feature of Street and Smith Publications, Incorporated. The Return of Nick Carter is produced in the studios of WOR and is broadcast over most of these stations every Monday evening at 9:30 Eastern Wartime. This is Mutual.
This I believe. Alfred L. Wolf is a lawyer. However, before he started his legal practice, he worked for 1 year as a reporter on the Philadelphia Evening Ledger. One might say that his avocation is flying. Since 1938, he has been an examiner for the Civil Aeronautics Board. As a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force Reserve, he has just completed a tour of duty in Europe and North Africa. Here now is Alfred Wolf.
I believe many more people want to do right than do wrong. They are misty on what constitutes doing right. But generally they and I believe that truth, beauty, justice, and love are to be preferred to falsehood, ugliness, injustice, and hate. This makes our world, for me, worth inhabiting, and my life worth living. For if I had no faith in the vast majority of men and in the richness of living, I could not keep at the business of living, would have only to exist, which I despise. But I also realize that my life is a limited franchise, and living it can be dissipated if I try to do everything, or too many things at one time. Fooled by the superficial richness of lives led in less specialized eras, I can attempt to do too much and miss doing anything. For that reason, I must endeavor to learn what things I do best. In general, they are the things I wish to do and enjoy doing, either consciously or subconsciously, and when they are discovered, I believe in accepting them and doing them wholeheartedly. I believe this is my duty in repayment for the gift of life and its wonder and fullness. Because people essentially are ethical, I feel no need to appeal to external reasons or creatures on their behalf or mine for aid. I believe that I am the master of my own fate and they of theirs. If others have need of extra machinery to support and guide their ideals in existence, that is their concern and no concern of mine. But for them it is a worthy business. I trust my fellow man and oppose too closely negotiated bargaining and commercial espionage. As a lawyer, I guide myself more by my instinctive feeling for the parties and issues involved than by the ancient rote and the modern augmentation of it. Because I hold these beliefs, I am sure that our world will eventually be peaceful, and that this will come about through the good in most of us. During my own lifetime, I have seen unwillingness to act give way to a determination to cooperate to stop aggression. But there is one price of peace which worries me. This is the ascendance of cultural mediocrity. I am not entirely happy about the fact that through the modernization and facilitation of worldwide transportation, communication, and education, the world is shrinking, talking less languages, supporting less religions, using less diverse shelters, eating the same foods, and, in short, gradually coming to think along more similar lines. My experience has taught me that one of the most stimulating things in life is to know different people with different ideas, customs, and ways of life. I value what each of them has contributed to my own outlook. It is therefore one of my fondest hopes that somehow, without sacrificing all this wondrous diversity, eventually there will be achieved a peaceful world, free from jealousies, fears, and hate.
That was Alfred L. Wolfe, a lawyer who practices in Philadelphia and lives in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania.
Night beat.
Hi, this is Randy Stone. I cover the night beat for the Chicago Star. Stories start in many different ways. But tonight's story began when one man tried to destroy another with the strangest weapon of all, darkness.
Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy as Randy Stone.
When your job is to walk into the darkness and discover what makes a city tick, you pick up some mighty strange friends. The winos dreaming of a muscatel paradise in cold, dark doorways. The petty larceny boys with their fast deals. The painted little dames defying the world with their brassy laughter. The homeless, the hopeless. In the city, night is for the lost. And sometimes you feel a hunger to be with someone of the everyday world. Some nice, well-adjusted soul who's got a reason for waking up tomorrow morning. I guess that's why I dropped in to see Bessie Chatfield tonight. Bessie's a little gray-haired librarian who has charge of a small storefront library on Huron Street. No one around this time of night but Bessie and a young fellow in a gray raincoat alone at a reading table.
Mr. Stone. Well, we haven't seen you, in such a long time.
Well, since Forever Amber, you haven't had the kind of high-type literature that interests me.
And when you finally do drop in, look what time you get here. 10 o'clock. Right when I have to go over and start turning out the lights.
I timed it that way so I could get you behind those bookcases, away from that fellow with the reading desk.
Well, I'm afraid your timing is about 35 years off, Mr. Stone. These light switches. Why do they always put them up so high?
Aren't you going to tell that fellow it's time to go home?
This is the way we tell them. We flick off the lights and then flick them on again. First off, like this.
No, don't do that. No!
What?
Turn the lights on quick. Let me handle him.
What's the idea of doing that, mister? That's supposed to be smart or something.
Oh, take it easy, fella. Take it easy.
Or did he pay you to do it? Is that the deal?
Huh?
You tell George Brewster that the game doesn't amuse me anymore. You tell him if he keeps that up, I'll kill him.
Oh, wait. I turned the lights out. It's closing time.
What? Closing time? Oh. Yes, of course.
What's wrong with you, buddy? You sick or something?
Sick, yes, that's me, sick. Only mine's a childhood disease. Childhood.
No, what in the world was that?
I don't know. Ever seen him before?
He's come in a couple of times this week. Spent all the time reading some reference books at the table. Seemed to be such a nice, polite young man. Considerate, kindly.
Let's take a look at those books.
Oh, my heavens, my heart is beating a mile a minute. And did you see his face? It frightened me.
He was even more scared than we were.
Of what?
These are books he was reading?
Yes.
The Mind in Limbo, Abnormal Psychology, Modern Psychiatry.
Why would he want books like this?
Maybe he was looking for somebody in these books.
Who?
Himself, Bessie? Probably himself. Bessie was pretty upset, so after she locked up for the night, I started walking her toward the elevated station over on Lake Street. We'd walked a couple of blocks through the dark, empty streets when suddenly Bessie grabbed my arm.
Mr. Stone, that man down the street, looking in that store window. That's him.
Oh, yes, same gray raincoat, same lad.
And look, Mr. Stone, what's that in his hand?
That's a piece of pipe or something.
He's breaking that store window.
Yeah, you wait right here, honey.
Be careful, Mr. Stone, be careful.
The fellow was reaching through the broken window glass for whatever it was that had struck his fancy. He heard me coming and turned toward me. The wan street light did something to his face. It seemed twisted and torn. Blood was running down his hand where the glass had cut him. Then I saw what he'd taken from the window. A gun. What's the idea, pal? He spun around and started running for the elevator station down the block. And in the best tradition of the Rover boys, I stayed right on his tail. He turned back to see how I was doing. He stumbled over a trash can near the curb. I caught up with him, grabbing his arm.
Let go of me. Leave me alone. Let go of me.
He slashed the gun across my face and began running again. I stopped long enough to take a quick inventory of my teeth. Up above, I heard the elevator train coming into the station. The young fellow had reached the station steps and was going up fast, trying to make that train. I reached for one of his legs. He turned and gave it to me right in the stomach. I folded up, and I just sat there. I listened to the train pull away with the fellow on it, and remembered what Bessie had said about him being such a nice, polite young man. After a while, I began to feel somewhat human again. I notified the police what had happened, and they sent a squad car out. After they left, I remembered something, a name this nice, polite young man had been throwing around. George Brewster. I found a phone book in a cigar store. There were 3 George Brewsters. The first number didn't answer. I tried the second.
Hello?
I'd like to speak to George Brewster.
Oh, he's not in right now. Is there any message?
Who is this?
I'm his sister.
Is anything wrong?
Well, if this is the right George Brewster, something is wrong. Is there any reason why a young fellow should want to kill your brother?
Oh, that would be Morrison. Oh, I warned George.
Morrison, huh?
Tom Morrison.
Where does he live?
Our old apartment, 612 Hamlin Avenue. What makes you think he wants to kill George?
Well, this character broke into a store tonight and stole a gun. I sort of think he had your brother in mind when he did it.
Oh, no. What am I going to do?
Well, lady, I know what I'm going to do. As fast as I hang up and get another nickel into this phone, I'm going to call the police.
Oh, I feel so bad. It's not really Morrison's fault, poor man.
Oh, no. He's just a prince of a fellow. Goodbye, lady. I've got to make a call. But then it turned out that I didn't have a nickel. And on the way to the counter for change, I started wondering why the sister of the man he was going to kill felt sorry for Morrison. And why Bessie thought he was such a sweet character. And, well, the night was young, and 612 Hamlin Avenue couldn't wait, and I could call the cops later. 612 North Hamlin was a second-floor flat on the north side. I got there a few minutes after 11 that night. All the windows were lit up. I rang the bell and I waited. I felt a little bead of sweat zigzagging down my face like it didn't have any place to go. Yes? Oh, it's you. No, let's not close the door just yet. In fact, let's push it open all the way.
Oh. What do you want?
My 2 front teeth and a few ribs.
Get out of here.
Now, look, pal, don't tempt me. I came against my better judgment to listen to what you've got to say. If I leave now, the only place I'm going is the nearest police station.
Police station. I guess maybe that would be the best.
What?
Otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, I guess you better call the police, mister.
What do you think you're doing, calling my bluff?
The phone's right behind you.
Okay, buddy, you asked for it. Sure this is the way you want it?
It's better this way. I'm at the end of my rope. I don't want to kill him.
George Brewster?
Yes, George Brewster. I know how it'll end if he doesn't stop.
Stop what?
Call the police, mister. You'd be doing me a favor.
Since when have I got to do you favors?
Well, why aren't you calling?
I'm an Eagle Scout in good standing. I haven't done my good deed for today.
You can't help me, mister.
Stone is the name. What makes you so sure I can?
Well, thanks for even wanting to. After that bad time I gave you.
Bad time? That's the understatement of the year.
Well, I was panic-stricken. It got me half crazy.
Well, what have you got to lose if you tell me about it?
No.
Okay.
Wait. I don't know. I'm like a drowning man grasping at straws. Look, maybe if you talk to Brewster, told him what he's doing to me, maybe he'd leave me alone.
Well, you never can tell. But I'd have to know what I'm talking about.
It's quite a story, mister. These lights. Look at them. Bright as the sun, aren't they? Lamps. Overhead chandeliers. Look at them.
I'd hate to see your light bills.
Like some men need drugs. That's how I need these lights.
Come again?
My sanity depends on it. My very sanity.
On these lights?
It's a sickness. You've even got a name for it. Noctophobia, it's called. Fear of darkness.
Fear of darkness? That's for kids. No, I take that back. I'm sorry.
Don't be. I quite agree. Kids. Or neurotic women. But in a man of my age, it's quite ridiculous. When the day starts drawing to a close, when the night starts crowding in.
Have you been to a doctor?
Sure, I've been to doctors. They tell me I shouldn't feel too badly. Plenty of people with my trouble. A hangover from childhood. An illness. Like heart trouble is an illness. I'll take the heart trouble.
Maybe you haven't gone to the right kind of a doctor. Maybe psychiatry could help you.
Nothing's going to help me. George Brewster's going to see to that.
What about this, Brewster?
He's trying to destroy me. With the strangest weapon of all.
The strangest weapon of all?
Yes. His weapon is the night.
You were listening to Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy. In a moment, we'll return to Night Beat and Randy Stone. But first, we'd like to call your attention to another great NBC mystery adventure program. Every Sunday, You'll want to hear the exciting new Christopher London series with screen actor Glenn Ford in the title role. Stories for Christopher London are furnished by Earl Stanley Gardner, one of the most famous mystery story writers in America. There is no doubt about the greatness of Gardner's stories, and with the superb acting of Glenn Ford, Christopher London should be must-listening for every mystery fan. Make a listening date now to hear the exciting adventures of Christopher London every Sunday over most of these same NBC stations. And now, back to Frank Lovejoy as Randy Stone in Night Beat.
It was a weird feeling standing in Morrison's brilliantly lighted parlor listening to him tell me about his terror of darkness. A sturdy, healthy-looking man trapped by a childhood nightmare. I felt guilt listening to him like I was eavesdropping into a dark corner of his mind that was nobody's business but his own. And yet he had to tell me because he needed help. Because George Brewster was using Morrison's fear to destroy him.
I was sent to Chicago by our company to replace Brewster, Stone. Till he found out why I was here, he couldn't do enough for me. He even got me this apartment.
Greater love hath no man.
Then he found out what the setup was. He changed fast enough.
How did he find out about this fear of yours?
Well, I'm telling you how. The other night, the two of us were working alone in the big vault down at the office, working on some old account or other. The overhead light, it blew out.
Uh-huh.
Well, it was so sudden, I couldn't help myself. I tried to keep calm, but it was like something tearing me to pieces inside. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't... Finally, I had to run.
So he found out about...
No, he wasn't sure, but it started him thinking.
Yes, I see.
Next afternoon, he came over to my desk. He was jovial, friendly, like he'd been in the beginning. Saying we'd been at each other's throats long enough. Inviting me to have dinner with him that night. Right from work, we went to his favorite spot on the north side, a place called the Catacombs. I began feeling uneasy the moment I entered.
How do you like this place, Tom?
That's okay. It's fine.
It's been a favorite of mine for years. One spot in particular, the wine cellar. How do you feel about wine?
I like it all right.
Come along with me. I'm a wine man from way back.
Say, George, I wanted to talk to you about that little outburst last night.
They have a different wine cellar here with a different temperature for each type of wine.
I haven't been sleeping well, you see.
Me, I prefer a Riesling myself. Well, here we are.
Huh?
The white wine cellar. We'll select our own brand for our supper. Here, I'll open the door. Yeah, this is a privilege only an old customer like me can get away with. Come on.
Dark down there.
That's why they've got this candle here on the ledge. Got a match?
Why?
A match, Tom.
Yeah. Here.
Okay. I'll get this candle going. Good. Now, let's go downstairs.
George, you think we should do this on our own?
Done it hundreds of times. Coming here for the last 10 years. Well, now let's go down these stairs then. Careful.
Yeah. George, I was explaining about last night.
The candle casts funny shadows, doesn't it? You notice how cool it is? 20 feet below street level here.
Look, I want to talk about last night. I don't want any misunderstanding.
Huh?
It's just that I've been working pretty hard.
Look, Tom. Would it make you feel better if you showed me you're not afraid of the dark? Okay, you can show me. I'll blow out the candle.
What are you trying to prove, Brewster?
Nothing at all. It's your idea.
Where are those matches I gave you?
You gave me some matches? Well, I must have lost them.
It's not going to work, Brewster. I'm not insane, you know. I can stay down here until you're quite satisfied.
Funny, isn't it, about the darkness? The way it seems to close in on you. The way you start thinking you can't breathe. I know, I can see how someone could... What's the matter, Tom?
This is ridiculous.
Something so suffocating about a dark room.
Stop it. Stop it.
Only the heavy, smothering blackness.
Stop it.
Where are you going, Tom? Anything wrong? Anything wrong? Anything wrong?
Ran out of that cellar like a kid, like a kid scared to death, Stone.
It was a rotten thing for him to do.
Well, he's fighting for his job, Stone. He's not too young anymore. Can't start all over again, so he'll do anything.
Oh, great.
I'm sure he's told the people down at work. I'm sure they're all laughing at me behind my back. You don't know what that does to me.
I can imagine.
Today I found a new desk lamp on my desk, courtesy of George Brewster. Every day, something like that.
Did you ask him why he's doing it?
He won't admit he's doing anything. Says it's all my imagination. Maybe I ought to see a doctor. Or better still, maybe a change of climate would help. Well, I'd leave town in a minute. I mean, my future's at stake, too. Before I let him drive me crazy, I'll kill him.
Well, I'm going now. I'm going to talk to this bird. Where does he live?
Out in the suburbs, Lake Forest. He lives with his sister.
All right, I'll give you a ring as soon as I've seen him.
Mr. Stone, I hope you can do some good.
Yeah. Oh. Say, I almost forgot something.
What?
That gun you made off with.
Well,
Maybe if we're lucky, we can talk the store owner out of pressing charges. I'll try.
That was a crazy thing to do. I was so desperate.
Wouldn't have done you much good. When they put them in the window, they never loaded. I'll let you in on a secret. If I hadn't known that, I wouldn't have been such a hero coming here tonight.
I'll let you in on a secret, Mr. Stone. You can get bullets without a license. The gun's loaded now.
Oh, great. All right, go and get it for me.
All right. Yes, I want to give it to you. It's in my bedroom.
He started for the bedroom. And then it was almost like a comedy routine where, after the big build-up, the punchline comes right out on cue. The moment he entered the other room, every light in the house suddenly went out.
What happened to the lights?
Take it easy. Where's the fuse box?
I don't know. Never had any occasion to use it. Besides, if it was the fuse, all the lights wouldn't go out. It wasn't you.
Use your head. How could I do it?
I'm getting out of here. All lights out, too. Stone,
well, maybe something went wrong with the central wire.
But why should it happen exactly now? Wait.
Huh?
The downstairs apartment. Their lights are on. If it was the wire...
All right. Let's ask them where the fuse box is.
Yes? Oh, Mr. Morris.
My lights went out. It might be a fuse. Where are the fuse boxes for these apartments?
Out in the back. I'll get a flashlight and show you. Here we are. The fuse box is right here below our meters. Whenever the people from the light company come out, they have a dickens of a time finding it.
Will you hold the flashlight steady and let me take a look?
Wait a minute, Stone. Lower the flashlight just a little.
Huh?
It's not the fuse. Look at the master switch on my meter. Look at the one of Mrs. Graham's.
Why, somebody pulled your switch down to off.
Yes. Yes, someone surely did.
Well, here, let me push it up. There.
And look upstairs. All your lights are on again.
That's probably some kids playing a joke.
How do you suppose the rascals ever found it? It's so well hidden.
I've got a theory that all kids come equipped with a special radar for finding things like this.
Mrs. Graham, tell this gentleman who used to live in my apartment before I did.
Why?
Tell him.
Why, you know. He even got the apartment for you. Your friend, Mr. Brewster. But what is that?
Tom, that doesn't prove he did it.
For me, it does, Stone. For me, it does.
Morrison went around to the front of his house and up the stairs to his flat. I waited in the hallway until he came down again. He looked different. His face was hard and set. His eyes were like chunks of glass punched into the flesh.
What are you waiting for, Stone?
When we were so rudely interrupted, you were going for the gun.
I've got it now.
Oh, yes. Hand it over. I'll bring it back.
No, thanks.
Well, where are you going and what are you going to do?
I'm fighting for my sanity, my life. He's never going to do this to me again. Never.
I can't let you do that.
You're not going to have to.
The minute you leave, I'm going to call every cop in the book.
Yes, that's what you do, isn't it?
Yes.
Then I'd better give you the gun.
This could become habit-forming. I dropped to my knees in the hallway, and then the hallway subdivided like something under a microscope, and there were 2 hallways, and then there were 4. And then everywhere I looked, there were hallways. Morrison tried to push me aside and get by me, only it was a whole circle of Morrisons. I grabbed at his legs to hold him back and was like grabbing at a centipede. Then all the Morrisons in all the hallways brought all their guns down on my one poor head. And that was it, brothers and sisters, that was it.
Feeling better, Mr. Stone?
Oh, if I felt any better, I'd call an embalmer. Oh, what a business.
I heard a commotion, and I came out, and you were lying here.
Oh, this my head, or is it a cantaloupe?
Oh, how did it happen, and where's Mr. Morrison?
Oh, Morrison, yes. How long ago did you hear this commotion?
Oh, just a couple of minutes ago. You came out of it real fast.
Yeah, I've got an iron constitution. Have you got a phone?
Well, yes, but don't you think you
Come on, lady. Grab my head, put it back on nice and neat, and let's get to that phone. Hello, this is the fellow who called you before, Miss Brewster, about Morrison and your brother.
Oh, yes.
He's not there yet, huh?
No, my brother's...
I don't mean your brother, I mean Morrison.
What? No. Is he...
Oh, yes, he sure is. Now, give me your address, and the minute you hang up, get away from your house as fast as you can. Morrison's got a gun, and he's half crazy.
Maybe we should call the police.
Well, maybe we should, but I'm not going to. They'd throw the book at him 10 years for attempted murder. I think I can stop him before he does anything.
Oh, I can't tell you how sorry I am about this.
Lady, you and your brother should be. The cab got me out to their Lake Forest house in less than 20 minutes. The house was on a hill, and a flagstone path wound round and round for a city block until it reached the front porch. As I ran up the walk, my head started rattling like a handful of pennies in a tin cup. I felt weak and tired. All the time I tried not to think about what I'd find when I reached the house. And now I was at the end of the path, walking toward the front porch. A nerve deep in my throat started jangling like a burglar alarm. The house was in darkness, and Morrison was standing beneath a little porch light, his gun pointed right at me.
You won't quit, will you, Stone?
What have you done with him, Tom?
He hasn't done anything with him yet, Mr. Stone.
Huh? Who is...
I'm sitting over here at the end of the porch. I'm George's sister.
Oh. I didn't see you in the dark. Why didn't you get away like I told you?
I won't hurt her. It's him. He'll be coming along soon.
George would never have done what he did. I begged him not to. To take advantage of a man's weakness.
Well, Mr. Brewster is coming home.
What?
His car is stopping at the bottom of the hill. Now he's starting the long climb.
Morrison, listen to me.
You just sit there, the both of you. And I must insist that you be very quiet.
Please, listen to me. Please. Please.
Keep coming up that path, Brewster. It's a long, long way.
You must listen to me.
Morrison.
You don't know what you're
waiting
doing.
near the porch light, the gun
George
in his
hurt
hand.
you. He shouldn't have done that.
Far below the small
But what
figure
you're
of George
doing is
Brewster
so
making a long, slow
Don't you
climb.
realize that? You're going to kill George because he found out about your fear. But don't you see? George is afraid, too. Of bigger things. Of being 53 and seeing his whole life going down
Brewster
the
had
drain.
stopped at the first landing to
That's
catch
why
his
he
breath.
hurt you.
Now he was
That's
climbing
what
up the
you
path
want.
again.
He was fighting.
Maybe
for
100
his
steps
life.
from his
He was
death.
fighting for you.
I found myself counting the steps.
Why are you afraid of the
Closer.
darkness, Mark? Don't you see? If you weren't afraid, George couldn't hurt you anymore. Please, listen to me.
Keep your voice down. If you try to warn him, you both die, too. Keep coming, Brewster.
Yes, he kept coming. No more than 70 steps now.
What is there to fear about the dark?
The girl's voice going on and on.
Nothing.
Brewster getting closer.
All it does is hide the world.
Less than 50 steps now. 40 steps. 30 steps.
If you believe in God, if you believe in your own soul, how can you fear the night? What is there in the darkness that can hurt you? There's such peace in the darkness. After the heat of day is gone, the rush, the tumult, the struggle, you can breathe easy again. You can let the tightness inside unwind.
He's almost close enough.
Listen to me. Please listen.
It's not going to work, Miss Brewster. I'm going to try and work.
Wait.
Miss Brewster.
There we are, Miss Brewster.
No. You must see me in the light.
I tell you, stay with...
Tom. Look at her. I didn't realize.
I'm not afraid. What right have you to fear?
Julie, is that you on the porch?
What right have you to fear, Mr. Moran?
What right?
Oh, what a long climb. Must be getting old. Well, what are you doing here, Morrison? And who's this?
Oh, don't mind me. I just came along for the ride.
What's this all about?
I just came to say goodbye, Brewster.
You're leaving?
Yes. I'm going back and tell them you've done a good job here. It's not fair to replace you after so many years.
You sure nobody scared you away, Morrison?
Look at him, Brewster. Does he look like he's afraid? I don't know if Julie cured Morrison of his fear of darkness. Cure is a pretty strong word. But maybe she helped. I kind of think so. I do know this. It's going to be mighty hard for Tom to fear the darkness, knowing Julie is not afraid. But neither Tom nor I will ever forget what we saw as the porch light lit up her face. Julie Brewster, who did not fear the darkness, was blind. And now that part of the story they always print in heavy type, the moral. And don't smile so indulgently. Morals are very nice things. Some of my best friends have morals. You know, seriously, Julie's whole life is a moral in itself. Trying to top it is like trying to follow Al Jolson with a Mammy song. The best you can do is tip your hat to the fellow who wrote, "Out of the night that covers me, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul." He must have had someone like Julie in mind. Well, 4 o'clock in the morning, stale cup of coffee, a tired sandwich, and a story to dictate, and I worry about my unconquerable soul. Ah, me. Give me a rewrite.
Night Beat, a new dramatic series, stars Frank Lovejoy as Randy Stone. Night Beat is written by Larry Marcus and directed by Warren Lewis. Music by Frank Worth. Listen next week at this same time and every week as Randy Stone searches through the city for the strange stories waiting for him in the darkness. The stories that come out of the shadows to find their way into Night Beat. Stay tuned for Brian Donlevy and Dangerous Assignment on...
This, I believe. Few men could have been as good-humored about so crushing a defeat as Alfred M. Landon met when Republican candidate for the presidency in 1936. A graduate of the University of Kansas, he made a success in the oil business, became the acknowledged leader of progressive Republicans in Kansas, and twice went against the political tide to be elected governor. Here now are the beliefs of Alf Landon.
I believe in people, their accomplishments as members of the society created through centuries of courageous trial and heartbreaking errors, merit belief in individual thinking and the right to do so. Mankind has made astonishing progress in a few millennia. It may be that not all of our boasted progress has been of real value. It may be that we've tried to purchase material well-being at a price too high spiritually. Even so, with all our woes, the civilization of the 20th century, where it prevails, gives greater opportunity for the good life for all the people than did any of the so-called golden ages of the past, when the powerful few regarded the great masses as little better than mere beasts of burden. I believe social and political progress does not just happen. We cannot too greatly honor and revere the great men of history, the great reformers, the great leaders. However, it is a sad fact that there have been always as many false prophets as true prophets, as many powerful, self-seeking demagogues as selfless, patriotic statesmen, as many ruthless exploiters as benefactors. The race has made progress only so far as the people have developed the ability to distinguish the false from the true and the will to follow truth at whatever cost. 2,000 years ago, the world had great philosophers, great culture, great and powerful empires. Then came a meek and lowly man of Judea. The learned and the great rejected him, but the common people heard him gladly. The whole course of human history was changed by their acceptance of his teachings. I believe in the people, not that they're infinitely wise, but that in the main they instinctively believe in fair play, in decency, in justice. Necessarily a man must live with others and learn to get along with them, first in the family, then in the clan, the tribe, the nation, and ultimately the world. In the family, a sense of justice, of trust, of loyalty, and foremost of all, affection are imperative. It is these traits which give validity to democracy and which are the basis of our faith in the final decisions of the people. The civilization which we cherish today, and in defense of which we will wage uncompromising war, rests upon the ideals of democracy. Democracy, if it be a vital force, must be in the hearts of the people. An instinctive and irresistible demand for liberty and justice for all. Democracy cannot be bestowed upon a nation. When the people, the common people, are ripe for it, they just naturally take it as the natural, inalienable right. I believe that instinct is in every human heart.
Those were the personal beliefs of former Governor Alf Landon of Kansas, the 1936 Republican candidate for the presidency.
Here's Dick Powell as Richard Diamond, private detective.
My name's Diamond, and I'm in business for a very simple reason. I like money. Oh, sure, I could do better, but I don't believe in straining myself. I might make a few bucks more, but so what? You work harder, your back gets weaker, and you take that extra couple of bucks and spend it for a brace to keep you from folding in the middle. No, I got a little one-room office that leans out over Broadway, and I'm very happy. Sometimes I get a case that lasts a week, $100 a day in expenses, and I make enough to pay the rent. Take my girl Helen Asher to dinner a couple of times and rest my feet on the desk like a prosperous businessman. I'm in partnership with a shill called Human Nature. And with him on my side, it just figures that people are going to get in trouble. Like the character who's ringing the doorbell of an apartment on the east side. He's built just right for more trouble than he can handle.
Well.
Hello, Mrs. Moran.
You say that like you're really glad to see me.
I'll let you know as soon as we talk business.
Did you bring a rubber hose along?
Why? You're going to be hard to get along with?
This time, yes.
Where's your husband?
He went out. I tried to convince him the window was the quickest way to the street, but he's old-fashioned. He took the elevator.
You're drunk.
He can't get a bet out on me. Want a drink?
Just get the 500. I don't want to be around when your old man gets back.
You couldn't afford that, could you?
No, and I don't think you could either, baby. Now, let's stop playing games, Mrs. Moran.
I've got a big, fat surprise for you, Mac.
Keep it in small bills.
Now, isn't that funny? That's your surprise.
Yeah?
Yeah. You don't get the money. You get something else.
Stop yelling. We'll have the whole building up here in a minute.
They'll be up anyway, Mac. A gunshot makes people curious.
Now, wait a minute. You don't have to pull a
I
gun.
don't have to do anything. And I'm breaking myself of one habit right now. I'm through paying your dirty blackmail.
Now, you know I got my orders. If I don't collect, someone else will be around. Come on, give me the gun.
Sure. A piece at a time.
Oh.
I need a drink. Well, here's to nothing, Betty, old girl.
Read all about it. Matt Grayson shot to death in blackmail plot. Socialite Betty Moran kills gangster, then takes own life. Read all about it. Paper.
Hi, Kid.
Oh, paper, mister?
Yeah. Hey, I'll give you the check.
Oh, thanks.
Wealthy wife of William Moran kills... Well, I have to call Mr. Moran. No sense to lose a good source of income.
Yeah, come in.
Mr. Diamond?
Over here.
Oh, this clothesline, I couldn't see you. Do you always do your laundry in your office?
Free soap. Pull up a chair, Mr.
Moran. William Moran.
Oh.
Nice pair of Argyles.
One of my old clients. Sends them down from Sing Sing.
Have you read the morning papers, Mr. Diamond?
I haven't had time. Took some throw rugs down to the laundromat before I started on the socks.
My wife died last night.
What did you eat for breakfast?
Why, pancakes and eggs? Why?
You must eat a whole pig when you're not in mourning. How did she die?
She was shot to death.
Could she get 2 people for a pyramid club?
She was being blackmailed.
It's usually the other way around. The victim shoots the blackmailer.
She did that. His name was Mac Grayson. I want you to find the other man behind this blackmail ring.
Oh, what makes you think there was more than one?
I received an anonymous phone call this morning. It was from a man who said he was a friend of Mac Grayson. He made it perfectly clear that he was going to continue with the blackmail.
You, know what they had on your wife?
She was a very wealthy woman, Mr. Diamond. Before she married me, she was rather wild.
Well, they get that way sometimes.
There were some letters.
Why don't you go to the police?
As far as they're concerned, the case is closed. They say it's a murder and a suicide, and that's that. But I want to get the people who drove my wife to suicide.
Okay, Mr. Moran, but if you want me to try and dig up your blackmailers, my fee is rather high. I want to start sending my laundry out.
Money is no object.
That's the nicest thing you could have said. $100 a day and the fifth of plasma.
Plasma, Mr. Diamond?
100 proof. I never know what I'm going to run into in a case like this. I may bleed a little.
You can reach me at Evergreen 45021. I'll write you a check.
Here, use my pen. It's getting an inferiority complex. Do you know anything more about this man who called you this morning?
No, only he said he was a friend of Mac Grayson. Oh, there you are, Mr. Diamond. This should be enough of a retainer.
Oh, yes. And that's all you know?
I'm sorry I can't be of more help.
Oh, you've been a brick. I'll get the rest from homicide. Thank you, and goodbye, Mr. Moran.
Goodbye, Mr. Diamond, and good luck. Oh, I'm sorry. I knocked down some of your washing. There. Well, I'll be hearing from you.
Well, that's the way it goes. 1 minute you're washing socks, and the next you got enough money to stake out a claim on every night spot from Mott Street to Harlem. Unless a particular blackmail ring likes to kill private detectives. I had a hunch the assignment might run into overtime, so I put in a call to a lovely redhead named Helen Asher. Francis, the butler, answered, and I told him to pass the word along that I might be late for my date. I hung up before Helen could get on the pipe and start screaming at me like a wounded eagle. I locked the office, went down to 5th Precinct, and an old friend, Lieutenant Levinson. He was in charge of the homicide detail and could tell me about the late Mrs. Moran and her victim. When I walked in, Sergeant Otis was polishing his billy. Hello, Otis. The lieutenant in?
Well, Richard Diamond, the All-American Gumshoe.
Oh, you're just jealous because that club you've got is a better shape than your head.
Lieutenant, Diamond's out here.
Okay, send them in.
Tell me, Shamus, how does one get to be a great big private detective? Slaving box tops?
You have to observe things, Otis, my boy. For instance, one look at your shirt, and I can tell you've been eating well for a week. Why don't you either get it cleaned or stick it in a pressure cooker? Hello, Walt.
Now, wait a minute, Rick. If you've got a body somewhere, take it to another precinct.
Well, I'm a little short right now, but maybe I can dig one up. What I
Yeah, that was a swell one. Is this just a social visit, or am I a dreamer?
It's about the Moran suicide. You handle it?
Uh-huh. One of the neighbors called us. They're both deader than Otis on a double date.
What about the Grayson guy she knocked off?
Cheap thug. Couple of convictions. Oh, don't tell me Moran's been to you with that blackmail story.
Yeah. He seems to think Grayson was working with someone.
Rick, that guy pestered us all morning, but there's no proof of blackmail or anything else, except 2 people got killed.
Give me a quick rundown.
I don't know why you're interested. I think Moran drummed up the blackmail theory just to cover that his wife was running around with another man.
Well, I'm interested because Moran gave me a fat $200 in advance to get me in the spirit of the thing.
Well, if you want to be bored, here are the photographs of the deal. Here's Mac Grayson. Bullet entered his chest just below the 10th rib. Gun was a .32. Same one that the Moran dame used on herself. Enough powder burns on the shirt to show that she was standing pretty close when she gave it to him.
She'd have to be enough to miss him.
Well, you can see she was lying about 10 feet from Grayson near the bar.
Huh?
Probably needed a stiff shot before she knocked herself off. That's the highball glass on the floor near her head. And that's the .32 she used, about 6 inches from her right hand, and only her prints on it.
Powder burns on the girl?
Sure, all over her temple. We did the paraffin test on her hand, too. She fired the gun all right.
Did Grayson have any friends?
We never tied him up with anyone except an old wino that hangs out on Skid Row, a dump called the Parrot Club. Named Wilbur Truitt.
Huh? Yeah. Well, thanks, Walt.
Now, look, the dame killed the guy and then shot herself. What more do you want?
I'll let you know.
Wait a minute. I know that gleam in your eye. I always get a sour stomach from it. If you've got something, you better tell me.
Oh, you're a cynic, Walt. Have you talked to this Wilbur Truitt?
We questioned him this morning.
Got a tail on him?
Sure, but he won't take us anywhere. Now, what are you cooking up?
Well, maybe you think there's something to Moran's blackmail story.
Oh, don't be an idiot.
Then what are you tailing Truitt for?
Because I can't take a chance. Blackmail's a federal rap, and if Moran keeps stirring up trouble, I want to be able to prove he's nuts. Now, you look here. I want to know what's on your mind.
I'll send you a letter.
Oh, Otis.
Yeah, Lieutenant.
Get me my bicarbonate. And shut up.
Bye.
Goodbye.
I went through the squad room and out into the hall. I used the payphone for the door and put in a fast call to my client, William Moran. I had a hunch that Moran's $200 retainer in my pocket gave him an A priority on it.
Yes?
Mr. Moran.
That's right.
This is Diamond, Mr. Moran. I've got a lead on someone who knew Mac Grayson.
Well, that's fine, Mr. Diamond. Who is it?
The guy who hangs out on Skid Row, named Wilbur Truitt. Ever heard of him?
No.
Oh. Well, he might have been the one who phoned you this morning. I think I'll go down and find out.
Good. You'll keep in touch, won't you?
Oh, as long as I'm on the case. Goodbye, Mr. Moran. I left the 5th Precinct and headed for Skid Row. If you've never seen the street, it's a liberal education in the misery of human beings. Even the sun winds up with a hangover if it shines on the place too long. The Parrot Club was a cellar with a low ceiling and a drink of wine for 10 cents a glass. The smell of stale alcohol was so strong that if you opened the door to air the place out, the walls would probably cave in. I found Wilbur Truitt sitting at the bar with a dirty towel around his neck. He held the towel and a glass of wine in one hand, and with the other he pulled the towel, lifting his hand and the glass up to his mouth. You must have been an engineer.
I learned this little stunt in grammar school, bucko. I started missing my mouth 30 years ago, so I use this towel as a sort of alcohol pulley. It cuts down the element of risk. Hate to spill a drop.
You know a guy named Grayson?
It's the shakes, bucko. I am completely exhausted after a night of revelry, and my hand waves like it was flagging down a caravan of whiskey trucks.
Look, friend,
But after 1 or 2 pick-me-ups, I am perfectly capable of lifting the glass by myself. And come nightfall, I'm in excellent condition to entertain my little friend.
Oh, swell.
Most cowards let the little fellows frighten them, and they end up in Bellevue, but I like them. They worried me at first, but when they found out how much I drank, they began to show the strain, and the shoe was on the other foot, so to speak.
Oh, no.
They tried to frighten me the first night, but I just kept right on with one bottle after another, and it finally drove them to drink.
Now my DTs have hallucinations. We are rapidly building up a thriving community. What were you saying, Bucko?
Something about the evils of self-indulgence, but I've forgotten now.
Good. In that case, I will let you buy me a drink.
Oh, sure. Waiter, bring a bottle.
You just gave me cold chills. If I lick your hand, it's only a sign of fond endearment.
Okay. Now, do you know a guy named Grayson?
I knew there was a catch. Are you a cop?
No.
In that case, I trust you. Besides, you are holding that lovely bottle.
What about Grayson?
First, a small glass of truth serum.
First, Grayson.
I can't stand to look, so I will turn my back on the bottle and tell you what I know. Mr. Mac Grayson, a very unsavory character who reached a sudden demise last evening, dealt in smutty past and made them pay off by milking his victims. He has only one friend, a Mr. Leo Fink. Now, please, I'm beginning to spit out wads of cotton.
Where does this Fink live?
Oh, you are indeed a heartless rogue.
I was once.
You aren't by any chance a spy from the Purity League?
You get the bottle when I find out where Leo Fink lives.
1120 2nd Avenue now, please.
Now, here you are.
Don't struggle with the cork, Bucko. I have just acquired the strength of an uncropped Samson. And as I gaze upon this ruby goblet, I am reminded of the fact that you are not the first to come seeking the whereabouts of one Leo Fink.
Huh? Play it back in English.
A thug with the disagreeable habit of twisting my ascot approached me not 10 minutes before you came in seeking the same information.
Did you give it to him?
I had to. One more pull on my tie, and dissipation would have been a thing of the past.
Thanks, Wilbur. Here, buy yourself another jug.
Oh, bless you. And good morrow, cousin. Here's to my love. Oh, true apothecary. Thy drugs are quick. Thus, with a kiss, I die.
I left Wilbur with his first love and walked out on the street. I grabbed a cab and headed for Leo Fink's address. All the way over, I kept thinking how wonderful fresh air really was. When we finally got there, I paid off the cabbie and looked at my watch. It was 4:30, and the city was turning soft and mellow as the sun started giving up behind the tall buildings. I got that lousy feeling again when I looked across the street. A power car was parked at the curb, and it looked like Homicide's private limousine. Something was wrong. I went up to Fink's apartment in a hurry.
Yeah? What do you want, Shamus?
Well, good afternoon, Sergeant. I'm taking the census. How long ago did you die, sir?
Very funny, Diamond. Otis, who is that? Diamond. Who else? I didn't ask for a quick quiz on well-known personalities. Let him in.
Yeah, Lieutenant. Shame on you, Otis. You'll never make an Eagle Scout.
Hello, Rick. What do you want?
I'll bet he's dead.
You'll bet who's dead?
You know who's dead.
Sure, I know who's dead. Who do you think is dead?
The guy I came up here to see.
Well, who did you come up to see?
Well, I think it's the guy who's dead.
Don't you know?
No, I ask you.
Well, I'm telling you.
You told me nothing.
Look, why are you up here?
Because I'm looking for a guy.
What guy?
I think it's the guy who's dead.
Who's dead?
Oh, he's on third. Don't you know?
I think I know, Lieutenant. You shut up. Of course I know.
Well, all right. If you're going to hold out on your old pal...
Now, wait a minute. How did we get into this thing?
Otis, here's your bicarbonate. All mixed.
All right, now let's start again.
Walt, who's dead?
Oh, let's not have two bodies up here. The guy's name is Fink. Leo Fink.
Why did you say that in the first place?
Because I don't have to do anything I don't want to do.
Walt.
Lieutenant Levinson. Now, what are you doing up here?
Oh, I came up to see Leo Fink, that's all.
Well, he's in the other room. If he spills anything, don't believe it. He's been dead for 10 minutes.
That's too bad. He knew Mac Grayson.
Yeah, how did you find out?
That sweet old gentleman you sent me over to, Wilbur Truitt.
Oh, you got something out of him, huh? What else did he tell you?
Nothing, but we struck up quite a friendship. I'm going to go back over and see what another bottle of wine will do to his memory.
I'd better haul him in.
Well, don't do it, Walt. Don't do it. I can find out things a lot quicker. Shh. I got a system.
Okay, but keep me posted. I've got to clean up here.
How did Fink get it?
2 bullets in the head. No idea who gave it to him. They used a Luger, I think.
Hey, have you questioned Otis?
Oh, go on. Get out of here.
Walt, tell me, did you check the prints on that highball glass next to Mrs. Moran to find out whether they were from her right or left hand?
Now, what difference does it make?
I'll let you know.
Now, you wait a minute.
No, I can't. I'm behind schedule now. Bye.
Oh, Otis! I
went downstairs in a hurry and started back to Skid Row and Wilbur Truitt. I turned a corner and had a quick change of heart.
That's far enough, Shamus.
Wow. Oh, look what I picked up.
All right. Get into this alley.
Why don't you put that cannon away? It shows up like a pair of gums at a dentist convention.
Turn around and get going.
I can run if it would help.
Take your time. You haven't got too much of it left.
Stop nudging. You got a cold barrel.
Don't you like it?
No, but it helps. A lesson in the manly art of self-defense. Next time, don't get so close with a gun. Well, what do you know? A Luger.
Okay, so I'm a Butterfingers. You got the gun now. What are you going to do?
I got a mean streak, and it shows up when someone tries to kill me. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and if you don't answer them, you'll wish you'd picked on an octopus. Now, get up. Oh, you're a big one. Now, who sent you after me?
I don't know.
Who sent you after me?
Honest, I don't know. Oh, wait a second. All right. The guy told me on the phone his name was Jones.
Sure, first name's John.
Now, wait. I know it's a phony, but he was recommended.
You get paid for your work, don't you?
Yeah, but this one I collect after the job.
Where? I thought you'd gotten over that stubborn streak.
Okay. The 8 o'clock ferry to Staten Island. He's going to slip me 2 bills.
And you don't know his right name?
No.
Did you know Mac Grayson?
I heard of him, but I never met him.
Are you as handy with a 32 as you are with that Luger?
Huh?
Forget it. Next question. Who killed Leo Fink?
That's a pretty big one.
Okay, I'll word it differently. Who killed Leo Fink?
I'll take the beating.
Yeah. Well, I got a hunch this Luger of yours will check with ballistics. Come on. Homicide's still up in Fink's apartment.
No, it's...
What did you say?
Okay.
I hustled Louie up to Walt and left him handcuffed to Sergeant Otis. They deserved each other. Louie said he was going to be paid off at 8 o'clock, and my watch said it was 7:15. That gave me 45 minutes to check at Homicide and still catch the ferry to Staten Island. The fingerprint man at the 5th Precinct put the prints from the highball glass under a microscope and told me what I wanted to know. My hunch had been right. So I grabbed a cab, and 20 minutes later I was paying for my ticket at the ferry landing. A thick, wet fog was beginning to roll in off the river, and by 8 o'clock it was hard to even see your watch. Someone was playing a piano in the lounge as the ferry began to move slowly across the river. I didn't know who I was looking for, but I figured if there was going to be a payoff, it would be outside. I leaned against the rail and took out a cigarette.
Got the match, mister?
Huh? Yeah, right here.
Thanks. Lousy night.
Yeah. He wasn't my man. When he struck the match, I could see his dirty work clothes and his factory badge. I started down the other side of the boat. Finding a killer in that fog was like looking for your car keys in a mine shaft. I reached the bow of the boat, and right then I knew I was about to score. I get a tight feeling in my stomach when I start closing in on danger. I spotted the dark outline at the rail, so I pulled my hat down and walked up beside him. He was hunched over with his arms resting on the rail.
Terrible night.
Mm-hmm.
Be awful if you had to find someone in this fog.
Not if he found you first.
Yeah. I like the name Louis Osgood. Have you heard of it?
I like the name Moran.
Huh?
William Moran.
Who are you?
Just an employee.
Diamond.
Yeah, you get a gold star.
Well, what do you want? Have you found the blackmailers?
Now, stop playing Alice in Wonderland. I just pushed around your hired gunner, Louis Osgood. He had enough to say to put you away for a long time.
Couldn't have. He didn't know.
Didn't know your name? Who murdered your wife, you or Louis Osgood?
Why do you say murder? The police said it was suicide.
Well, I got news for you, Buster. Homicide just changed its mind. I checked and found out that the highball glass near her head was covered with prints from her right hand.
What does that prove?
It proves that to take her own life, she'd have to have fingers a foot long. The prints on the gun were also from her right hand. You're going to tell me that your wife shot herself while holding a highball glass in the same hand?
That's not my problem, Mr. Diamond.
Well, I think it is. If Louis Osgood didn't shoot her, that leaves just one suspect, you. Now, let's take a walk back to the cabin. I want to keep an eye on you for homicide.
All right. This is where I leave you, Mr. Diamond. Hey, come here!
I hadn't thought he'd make a break, but as long as he had a gun and knew how to use it, I could understand why he did. I got my gun out and took off after him. I expected him to go over the side and in the fog, and he'd have a good chance. But when a guy gets cornered, he does funny things. I never would have spotted him, but he threw open a door and framed himself in the light from the inside. I must have caught him because I saw him start to fold and stagger through the door. I took my time getting there. A wounded man with a gun can get pretty mean sometimes. The door swung back and forth with the motion of the boat, and I could hear the sound of the engines. He'd gone down in the engine room, so I dropped to my knees and went in after him. A long, polished ladder led down to the big diesels below, and I knew I'd hit him with the first shot because there was a bright red trail of blood leading down the ladder and behind the churning machinery. Moran! Oh, Moran, come on out! You can't get out of here.
Come and get me, Diamond. I don't like being slapped around, and I'm going to see that you get yours.
He was somewhere off to my left and keeping himself hidden. The catwalk circled the engine room, so I pulled an old stunt. I took a wrench off the wall and tossed it down the metal ladder. I watched for his gun flashes, and when I spotted his position, I got down on my stomach and crawled along the catwalk until I was directly over his head. He was sitting in a lot of blood, and he didn't look like he had long to go.
Come on, Diamond, I know you're down here.
Surprise! Look at the birdie.
What?
Don't try it. Sorry, Moran, but this just wasn't your night. You want to tell me about it?
I shot my wife. They came in just after she shot Grayson. She was standing at the bar with her back to me, mixing a drink. She dropped the gun by Grayson's body, so I picked it up and shot her. I wiped my prints off and put hers on it.
Why did you do it?
I hated her. She had money. I found some letters and turned them over to Mac Grayson, the well-known blackmailer. I wanted him to drive her crazy until she drank herself into a sanitarium, and then I'd have her money. I never guessed she'd kill Grayson, but when I did, I saw a chance to kill her and make it look like suicide.
You should never have called me. The police were satisfied.
I had to find Leo Fink. He knew I'd hired Grayson, and he was going to blackmail me.
So when I dug up the little wino that knew Fink, you hired Louis Osgood to bump Fink and me. Is that right? Hey, Moran. Oh, well, it was a dull conversation anyway. Lousy night. The captain came and helped me carry him up to the deck. Back at the ferry landing, I called Walt Levinson and told him the whole story. I didn't wait around. I just hung up in the middle of his lecture on good behavior and started walking. The stiff breeze was kicking up and pushing the fog back where it came from. After a good round of murder, a guy likes to relax. And I knew just the place to curl up and get my fur brushed. I grabbed a cab and headed for 975 Park Avenue, and the only girl in the world who looked better than her $10 million bank account.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Diamond.
Hello, Francis. Is Miss Asher in?
Yes, sir. She's in the library.
Thanks. Get me a glass of milk, will you, Francis?
Milk? Oh, yes, sir. Right away.
Hey, that's a B flat.
Chris, where have you been?
Sailing, sailing over the bounding main. Move over.
We were supposed to have been here at 8 o'clock.
Oh, what's an hour if you tack it on to the end of the evening?
Well, I'm glad you've been keeping out of trouble. I can't stand it when you wander in all beat up. You smell nice. What kind of cologne is that?
Gunpowder, 38.
What?
Oh, nothing. What's this you were playing?
Oh, a new song. Again.
You were just dandy.
Well, you know I don't play well. I just pick.
You should be glad you don't play the guitar with those beautiful nails. You'd saw it in half.
You're ridiculous.
Whoops. Oh, that wasn't a B flat.
Rick.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you love?
I won't tell.
Rick?
I love you, baby.
Then let's get married.
Hey, these are pretty good lyrics.
Now stop that.
Again, this couldn't happen again.
I hate you.
This is that once in a lifetime. This is that moment divine.
You never sing when I want you to.
What's more, this never happened before. Though I have waited a lifetime for such as you to suddenly mine. No comment?
No.
Mine to hold as I'm holding you now, and yet never to part. Mine to... Hey, what's the matter? Don't go.
You want to sing? Go ahead.
Well, what did you have in mind?
I won't tell.
You're not being original. That's my line.
Well, I'm mad.
Come here.
No.
Come here.
Mm-hmm.
Helen.
Mm-hmm.
Still mad?
No.
Well, let's get you mad again. It's so much fun making up. Mine again. What's the name of the song again? It never happens again. Oh, good. No.
Here's your milk, Mr. Diamond. Oh, my goodness, you never warned me.
You have just heard Richard Diamond, Private Detective, starring Dick Powell. Helen was played by Virginia Gregg, Lieutenant Levinson by Ed Begley. Also in our cast were Wilms Herbert, Carl Avery, Herbert Butterfield, and Jack Petruzzi. Music was under the direction of David Baskerville. Richard Diamond is written by Blake Edwards and directed by William P. Rousseau. Now, this is Eddie King inviting you to be with us again at the same time next week, when we will again bring you Dick Powell as Richard Diamond, Private Detective. This program has come to you from Hollywood. Now, NBC brings you a three-way cavalcade of grand comedy with Phil Harris and Alice Faye, Fred Allen and Henry Morgan, all following in fast succession over most of these NBC stations. This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
This I believe. Alfred Nilsson is a man who in a unique way has managed to combine in his life the ancient and the modern. By profession, he is a radio engineer at WOR in New York, but he is also a sailor, having lived for the past 29 years on the Chinese junk Amoy, a boat built according to a design perfected over 1,000 years ago. This is his creed.
Years ago, I worked as a harvester in the California orchards. Early in spring, along with others who wished to enjoy the clean air and delicious fruit, I would head for the cherry orchards. When the cherries had been picked, we would go to the apricot, peach, pear, prune, and apple orchards, then the hop fields, and finally the grape vineyards. In the course of the summer, we would walk well over 200 miles, loaded with utensils, blankets, books, and wearing apparel. We found that the straightest, levelest highway between fruit centers was the railroad, but walking the track was difficult. If we walked the ties, which were not evenly spaced, we had to continually break step. We would occasionally step on a piece of crushed rock and be tripped. To walk the top of the rail was ideal, except that it was narrow. It was in attempting to master this technique that I was led to a discovery which I feel was one of the most valuable I've ever made, a discovery that's been a guide to me in almost every decision I make. I found that I could make about 10 steps along the rail before having to step off and regain my balance. No matter how carefully I watched my feet, I was unable to go any greater distance. And then I made this discovery. If I took my eyes off my feet, if I raised my sights to as far down the track as I could see, I could walk for miles along that same narrow ledge without once stepping off. Then I got to thinking, if looking ahead can steady my physical course, why cannot I steady my mental course with the same far-sightedness? And having for many years tested that this can be done, I was led to try this same method on all the larger problems that perplexed me and all those around me. I imagined myself commissioned to design a life for people 2,000 years hence, a life that would be as nearly perfect as I could plan it. Little by little I graded and sifted my thoughts and acts, and soon found that I attached myself only to those interests that are as imperishable as diamond. I found myself being driven with an inspiring mental energy, which is the mark of successful living. I realized that since we are all equal creatures created by God, we should have religious understanding of that Creator we can all agree on. I came to believe that if it was regarded as the moral responsibility of all genuinely religious people not to subscribe to any creed from which others are automatically excluded, you would find nothing but very religious people in the world. Atheists are only people who refuse to accept the special provisions in our religions. When I look over the plains of history, the peaks that stand out, the Homers, the Platos, the Shakespeares, the Gandhis. I find them all to be men conscious of the world of the future, almost completely undisturbed by the petty troubles of the contemporary world. They were the men who could stand erect, look far down into the future, and walk the straight track to their ideals with the minimum of stumbling and falling. This I believe.
That was Alfred Nilsson, whose 3 sons have never lived ashore until they went to college, but have sailed around the world in their Chinese junk home.